Good morning, this is the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga. The family of Margaret Nduta is holding on to hope after she was spared from a scheduled execution on Monday evening. With a renewed sense of faith, the family gathered for prayers yesterday, urging the government to step up diplomatic efforts to secure the 37-year-old woman's repatriation to Kenya.
Asante sana Mr. President, kwa sababu mtoto wangu hakuuliwa, umlete huku Kenya. Asante sana, nitafurahi sana. Na watu wengi
walikuwa wasichana wawili. Nduta akaambiwa wewe ndio utakuwa wa mwisho kutoka. Vile siku yake ilifika ya kutoka, aliniambia, Wambo wetu, nimenunuliwa bag, nimeambiwa yangu ni ndogo na pia ni mzee. So akanunuliwa sasa, akaambiwa toa nguo zako uweke kwa hii bag nyingine.
Nominated MP Sabina Shaga noted there is a lot of diplomacy and communication going on, but the best of it is that Nduta is not going to be hanged now.
There is a lot of diplomacy and a lot of communication going on, but the best bit of it is that Nduta is not going to be hanged now. There's a lot of talk going on, and very soon the government will give its position once the negotiations are done. Actually, I'm going to personally take up the matter, and I also raise the matter with the president that we must vet the agencies that are recruiting our children, promising them greener pastures, but when they go the other side, they suffer, they run away from.
Nduta was set to face execution on Monday evening by lethal injection following her conviction on drug trafficking charges. She was arrested in 2023 when she arrived at an airport in Vietnam's capital in possession of 2 kilograms of cocaine. However, her family strongly maintains she was set up. Former Meru Governor Kawira Mwangaza has issued a statement to the media regarding her removal from office. Kawira has raised the issue that those who succeeded in her removal were male leaders and those in the central government who were not ready to compete with a female leader. She also claimed that she has gone through many challenges since she took over the leadership.
My successes were met with austerity by those who felt threatened by a woman's ability to lead effectively. Today, I break the silence to address the grave injustices I have faced as a woman leader in a deeply patriarchal society. My impeachment was not a reflection of my performance or integrity, but a calculated move by male chauvinists, political competitors, and political expediency. A complete national government willing to silence a woman who dared to lead. My removal was not a reflection of the will of the people, but rather a calculated move by political competitors and the national government who sought to punish me for refusing to be politically manipulated. During my tenure as governor, I remained steadfast in my commitment to serving the people of Meru with integrity, transparency, and accountability. I refuse to bow to the pressure of political puppeteers who sought to use my office for their own selfish gains.
This comes after some women from the ODM leadership staged a protest in Nairobi over her removal from office. Led by ODM Nairobi County Chairperson Catherine Okoh, they expressed their dissatisfaction with the move, calling on male leaders to stop taking away women's leadership positions.
Paka tukate kiti ya governor. Tukishapata wanaume wanaingilia, wanatupiga left and right mpaka kiti yetu imeenda, sasa tumebaki na governors 6.
And this is why we even speak to Raila Amolo Odinga, and at the same time we speak to the president that make sure the 1/3 gender rule is achieved so that all these messes and complaints and propaganda and innuendos on women is stopped. Yeah. We want women to lead this Kenya, we want women to take positions, and we want women to have opportunities, equal opportunities.
We are praying and we are urging the leadership of this country, and we are asking men in the leadership positions in the country to be he for she for us women so that we can move together.
That's the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
102.5 SpiceFM, Kisumu.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
If we just gloss over issues and hope that time heals, then we might find that in generations to come, we might be back at the same situation. And the whole thing is born of stolen elections.
Spice.
When it comes to the decisions you make, you must be independent. There's no way you can allow one institution to dictate to you how you're going to conduct your operations, how you're going to decide cases. It's a no.
When you weaken the institution to the point where they cannot take action, then you realize that politicians have to come up and now start dealing with the issues.
That conversation has to die. Our politicians do not like the hard stuff. We must insist on the path of doing things right, whether popular or unpopular.
Money changes hands. That is a fact. If you have political goodwill at the highest top, like in Rwanda, then corruption will be an issue of the past. If you don't have political goodwill at the top, we will pass laws, we will amend laws, we will continue passing laws and re-amending laws, and nothing will happen.
This is the Situation Room.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
In this country, 6 families and 8,000 Kenyans control 90% of the GDP. We are not a country. We are a plantation. We work for Ruto.
When you're telling the judges court orders are papers or they will not obey court orders, they're sitting and you're seeking orders from them. So how are they supposed to interpret it? Isn't it an oxymoron?
When you see a judiciary that seems to be under some control somewhere, you start questioning. We have very powerful governors, but they don't use their offices to serve the people.
If you are not shameful to do what you are doing, why should we protect you?
I'm human, everybody's human. So when you're told, kuja tuongee, I mean, you'd be a fool to say, stagi kuongea. Conversations have to be had, you know?
People in leadership should only go into leadership if they are ready and willing to change the lot of the people.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
It's critical that people pay taxes. But then taxation has to have a limit. When you start overtaxing people beyond certain limit, then this is now we call robbery with violence.
We are all struggling, but we don't show. If you're not doing well, shame on you. But you have to say, I'm broke and I'm struggling. We are not okay until everybody is okay.
We are pretending to have political parties. Why don't we just be honest? And we say, these are the Lydiahs, these are the Kambas, these are the Kikuyus, and we find ourselves in Kenya.
With politics and leadership, no matter what you do, there will always be a complaint. There will always be the assumption that you're either stealing or you're not doing things right. As a leader, don't fear. If you know you're doing the right thing, you've thought about it, you've got an expert advice, do it, then understand later.
This country, we don't need prayers. Prayers is between you and God. Good governance and thinkers who care about the country and not their stomach.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Good morning and welcome to Wednesday. All right, hump day and getting into the week. A quick look at what's happening with traffic this morning. And there is some of it as you're coming into the city. It is busy on the Thika Superhighway. Traffic coming through towards Survey at that point. But before that, we're going to see a trickling in of traffic coming in from Githurai. On Gong Road is also busy, moving through towards the roundabout at Nairobi Funeral Home. And then also some traffic coming off of Wairimu, but it's just slim pickings early this morning. We're going to keep an eye on things and see how Wednesday develops, and you're going to help us out. Moving SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Guten Morgen. Otutuoma. Habari asubuhi.
Njema.
Bonjourne. Buongiorno. How many more can we do? Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam. Chionade.
Chionade. That's what I want. Bwakire.
Wakiribuya.
Well, now we're at 11. Let's make it to 12.
Oroaku.
Yes. Very good. And there we are. And a very good morning to you. It's 10 minutes after 6 o'clock, and welcome to Wednesday, the 19th of March. And we're here. Siti, good morning.
Good morning.
Uko salama?
Yes, I am well.
How was your day yesterday?
I went for a funeral to a village, a place in Muranga. A friend of mine called J.W. Kagwe had passed away, and he was being buried yesterday. It was interesting for a Tuesday. The funeral was very well attended.
Yeah.
And he was spoken of glowingly. One of those rare moments where everything that is being said about the person is true.
Oh, that's interesting. It's true and not just good.
No, they're not just... in fact, you get the impression that if they knew more, they would say a lot more about the person.
Yeah. That's fantastic.
But it also occurred to me that in this day and age, when somebody dies at the age of 72, they're still young.
It's true. They are.
They're still young. But what I found, he had 4 children. One passed away. One is in the States. The 2 who are here. When a parent dies, the thing that tugs your heartstrings most are the children, and you look at the grief.
Yeah.
This is one of those rare men whose children were his friends.
Yeah.
So you could see the loss.
Yeah. Yeah. Fortunate. I think it's fortunate to have parents and children who are friends.
And the children
big
said
deal.
so. They said so. They said having a father who's a friend, it's a
big deal.
Oh, it's a huge deal.
Yeah. I know it. Well, I'm glad that you got to do that.
No, I am gladder than you.
Yeah.
And I was given greetings galore. I even took pictures.
From a poker.
Yes, you were greeted left, right, center. And people said, I must say hello, and I am saying hello.
Bas.
I even met someone who has been to our show here.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yes. A very, very prominent citizen of the country. One Mr. Kibara, who is the CEO of Housing Finance.
Oh, okay. That's nice. Yeah, he was here a couple of times.
I think he's offshore asking me,
what are you doing here?
Yes. But it's nice seeing him. He also said he'll be back, and I told him we welcome him.
We will welcome him.
Karibu sana.
Karibu sana sana. Yeah. Dennis, how are you?
I'm good, as you can see.
You stole my line, man. But I'll allow you to use it, until like Thursday next week. After that, you must give it back.
Niko salama, nashukuru.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Karibu.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I'm fine, thank you.
These human rituals are very interesting. How are you? I'm fine.
Thank you.
So
even
much.
if it's a lie.
And how are you? Oh, I am
fine.
Also fine.
Even if it is a...
How's your day doing? Oh, my day is splendid, thank you.
It's a good way to start your day, no?
Not necessarily.
Even if, like in Nigeria, we say it's a dirty lie. Even if it is a lie, you're not fine and everything is going upside down. When somebody asks you how you are, what are you going to say? Fine,
why we say fine all the time is because if someone's really keen on finding out how you really are,
they will
find out.
Yes.
So tell them what we will pass for good greeting and then move
just
on.
keep it
how
clear.
are you fine?
Yeah.
It's like stop asking me many questions.
Yeah, move it along.
Yes.
Or like let me feel obligated to ask you how you are so that I don't have to do
and
anything
how are
else
you
later.
fine? Okay, so we are both fine. Okay, thank you.
Fantastic.
Now tell me, how are you really?
How are you really?
Yeah.
Yes.
Now the second part is actually what triggers the conversation. Yeah.
Indeed. Well, now that we've established that we're all fine, how about we tell you the conversations that we'll be having today, shall we? Kenya's biggest conversation gets into the 19th of March, this Thursday, with conversations on a various number of issues. All right? We're going to have a conversation at 7 a.m. Math or no math? The Ministry of Education, through the PS for Basic Education, one that Dr. Belio Kipsang, told us that in the selection process through towards the pathways, that math will no longer be compulsory. And we were all like, huh? Quoi? Qu'est-ce que ça veut dire? Ndungu Wangenye is the National Secretary of the Kenya Teachers in Hardship Arid Areas Welfare Association. It's a long one. However, he'll be here with us to discuss that. Another CBC quagmire. What exactly is going on? And we'll have that conversation with him. Math or no math? Is it a big deal? It is. And we'll be having that conversation at 7. Elizabeth Wasuna Ochwa is a business banking director with Absa Bank Kenya, and we'll be talking about capacity building in the SME sector. Now, we know that one of the biggest challenges towards entrepreneurship is access to credit. We know that. But also capacity building in how to actually start a business, what to do in terms of management of the same and moving forward is also another item that's often overlooked. And Elizabeth will be with us at 7 to talk about that. And then we will have a number of other conversations that we'll come back to you about at 9 o'clock. Sawa. So those are some things we'll be talking about today. As we get into it, Karibuni Sana. We'll be clicking into those conversations with you in just a little bit. Now, remember, when you would bite into something and you would feel that pain. You would feel that sensitivity in your teeth. Now imagine being able to bite into your favorite foods again without the fear of pain. That stone cold ice cream or that super hot coffee, just the way you like it. You don't have to imagine anymore, because Sensodyne is here to give you the ultimate relief from tooth sensitivity. And how do we know this? Because it's the number one recommended brand by dentists. And with World Health Oral Day coming up, we are reminding you that a happy mouth is a happy mind. And to get this, Sensodyne is giving you 50% off on selected products to keep your teeth strong. Grab your pack from any Carrefour, Naivas, Chandarana or Quick Mart stores only from the 20th, that's from tomorrow, of March to the 23rd. Sensodyne for tooth sensitivity relief and everyday oral health. All right, we can see you all clicking in. Our live streams are up on YouTube, on Facebook, on X, and we're going to take a minute to say good morning to all of you as we get into it. Sawa. And we know that you're here, so you starting to say good morning. Good morning to you. Where is UDA a party leaking? CT, may you express your wisdom on the matter?
Which one?
This one of UDA being a leaking party.
The person who said that must understand what it is they're saying.
It's Don Sabwa.
Don't tell us, where is it leaking exactly?
Do tell us, while you tell us that in Malawi, Dennis, Lankhula is how we say leaking.
What I'd like him to tell us in Malawian, what does UDA leaking mean?
And what does Lankhula mean?
Eunice Okello is tuned in this morning and says good morning. Salamu kutoka Dayton. Good morning, Cyprian. Desmond Otis is tuned in this morning and says Ndu oyaore ichiwe maber kose.
Say yes.
Umeamka vizuri ama say,
and then I say
achio maber.
Achio maber. Sindio? Ata Ednah akoma achio maber. But Desmond is saying he's not happy because Coco has gone to be with the Lord. First of all, who is Coco? You have to give us a few more details. Coco T. What is Coco T?
Reggae artist. Yeah.
Oh, Coco T, the reggae artist. Right. Oh my goodness. I just had a moment. No. Well, okay. Rose Grace tuned in from Tamu says, good morning, amazing team. You are Asante Sana every day for clicking in. Bonjour, c'est une bonne journée que le Seigneur a fait. Michael Olande says, good morning. He's greeting all of you. Leo ni Leo says R. In fact, Leo ni Leo. Good morning from Ombaso, says Robert. And Bwakire Abantu Abaya. A blessed Wednesday, says Agri Mumanyi. Good morning, Spice. Glad to be here every morning. Thank you, Jimmy Munuthi. Thank you for joining us every day. Jimmy Gakio says, good morning, Team Spice. Bonjour à tu, says Agola. Good morning to you, sister. Good morning, the greatest of all, SpiceFM. Ndu, this morning I have something special for you. Really? Oh yeah, bring it. Where? He has spoken in a language. Ngoja. City has to help us because I don't know what to say. Yeah.
Please proceed.
It is very long. I don't even know how to start pronouncing it.
Start.
Wait, let me greet Joseph Mokua first, who's tuning from Merile in Marsabit. And Carol Nyambura says, anatupenda sana. Pia sisi tunakupenda.
Where?
All right.
No, I can't.
Why don't you sit for another exam? Leave
that one is too much. King Dave says, in case you branch, tell him say I dare not the Ogenere. Okay, you're speaking to us in Isha, which is a language in one of the riverine states of Delta. I don't speak this language, but Sawa Dave, I see you. Good morning. It's not even Lu. I thought it was Lu. A lot of the words are the same, actually. Very interesting. This is from Delta State. It's actually Shekiri. Okay, they've thrown me for a nice loop there. Kisa Daniel says, good morning, tuned in. Wasusotsia. What is that? People should be telling me this language so that I can be understanding what it is before I say what I'm saying. Chris Maurer tuned in this morning. Onganyi Malala says, good morning, Ndu CT Dennis. I feel for Mwangaza. There are worse performing male governors that should be impeached, but this is politics. Sawa. Nemian says, good morning, tuned in, listening from Keses. Good morning from Colchester, says Rahim Tula. Bernardito says, good morning, from Doha. Princess Ndu, Dennis and CT, thanks for the yesterday birthday wishes. You are most welcome, and I hope you had an awesome day. Good morning, friends at SpiceFM Situation Room from Houston, Texas. Locked is Margaret Wanjohi. Good morning, have a blessed day, says Jeffrey Mogaka. Good morning to you, Jeffrey. Erica War is tuned in. Good morning from Nairobi, says Pan African. Hamjambo wadao. What was Spice now Penda, Santisana Simba?
Forgot about the Daudet.
Who's the Daudet?
You.
You can't say wadao to everybody at once?
Or Daudet. You have to be gender sensitive.
Oh, sorry, but don't be angry. Rothegeti is where Deno is tuned in this morning. Monica Oile says, Spices. Good morning to you. Hamza Ozil says, Assalamu alaikum, alaikum salam. We see you. Mwafrika Kev says, good morning from Doha. Summer bunnies are, you are most welcome. Summer is actually already starting to click in the Gulf. Good morning, watching from Masaku. Good morning, Awilo Garang. Good morning from Kenya and to Kenya and the world, says George Maina. Iregi Wajohi says, you're an admirable team. Keep up. Good morning to you, Asante Sana. From a cold London, Luton Airport, it's 2 degrees, says Lawrence Karaoke. Good gosh.
Pole.
Good morning from Likoni in Mombasa, says Onyango. Hesbon Sidon says, good morning, Team Spice. Did I hear yesterday when CT said NSSF had some profit gain from the dailies? It's all right. Sindio, ulisema hivyo jana?
I read what was in the papers, and that is what the papers said.
Bas.
Yes.
Good morning. Math is a must in basic education, says George. Well, many would agree with you. Team Spice, good morning. Ndu, please say hi to my crush CT. Kwisha. Berry Lakinyi, anaku crush.
Imeenda.
Iyo, anaku crush kabisa.
Kwanza leo uko na kofia. We!
It's
crush
over.
is what exactly?
Sasa,
crush.
Anakupenda tu kidogo kutoka kwa.
Good thing.
You know?
You can't blame a girl for having good taste, can you?
Ndu. Tell CT. Liet kapas.
Am I insulting him?
No.
Liet kapas. I have to ask because you people I don't trust. King Dave just gave me a whole thing in Ishakiri. Good morning, guys. You are the bomb. Boom. Thank you very much. Asante Sana. George Okoh is tuned in this morning and is asking, why are members of parliament normally introducing themselves as my name is Honorable Dr. So-and-so? How do you want them to say it? Redefender is saying good morning only to the beautiful Ednah. Ednah, wave at your fans, Bas. She has said good morning. She has greeted you. Good morning, Ndu. Good morning, Karanjan here. Gabriel Aya says good morning from Ethiopia. And Isaac Mwai is tuning in from Doha. A lot of our listeners tune in from Doha. So let's say hello to the Doha crew this morning. Special greetings to you. And we are looking for one Wairimu N who is in the Bay Area of San Francisco. You've not been here for a couple of days and you must take roll call.
You know, there's a lady I met at the funeral called Elizabeth.
Oh, yeah?
She told me she watches the show every day, and I told her I would acknowledge her.
Bas.
Yes.
What's her other name?
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth. Thank you every day for watching. And not everybody comments on YouTube, not everybody, but we know that a lot of people watching. And we just want to thank you for joining us in the room every day. We can't do this essentially without you. All right, CT, our proverb from the day is from...
From? You ask as though I changed the country.
No, I'm just making sure that Wednesday is like Tuesday.
We are still in the Republic of the Sudan. My goodness. Anyway, let me just go straight to the proverb. O digger of a pit of wickedness, widen your lying place.
What?
Yeah.
O digger of a pit of wickedness, widen your lying place. I haven't finished actually.
Oh, for goodness sake.
In it.
You're such a mess.
Wow.
The dramatic pause was for a purpose.
Clearly.
Instructive.
Oh, digger, widen your what?
Oh, digger of a pit of wickedness, widen your lying place in it. As you dig the pit of wickedness,
know that you also
widen
it because you're going to also enter inside. Yeah.
Right.
You can't expect to do evil to someone and not expect that you will not taste of that.
Oh, you will.
You will.
In fact, you are baking your own.
Absolutely.
It's like that.
So as you try to revenge or dig a grave or do whatever, just create some space for yourself as well, because you're gonna get into that.
You will get a taste of it.
You will.
Yeah.
You will.
So while at it, try make it comfortable.
Oh, just do good. So this proverb says this is what would happen to you, but we could look at the other side and say, you know what, just do good. Yeah. It takes very little effort. I normally say it takes more effort to be wicked, to be mean.
Oh yeah.
To
frown. It takes more effort to frown than to smile.
Then maintaining that.
Yeah. It's a lot more difficult
So
to be
all these people who like to put on this face as though they've sucked a sour lemon in the morning.
Yeah.
Remove the face.
You have more energy.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. You wonder why you're always tired.
You're tired. It's because you're frowning. Just smile, I beg. It doesn't do anything to you.
How you?
The energy consumption.
At 6 in the morning.
Trying.
Where are you from? I'm from ground floor. Were you going up the stairs? No, I was in the elevator. Then why are you panting? The energy you're using.
Hey, the energy you're using is more than that when you just decide, you know what? I got this. Let's go.
Let's go.
Speaking of which, Kenya's bold newspaper, The Standard.
Repeat again.
Kenya's bold newspaper.
Underline bold.
The Standard. Underline it and bold it again. Control B.
Bold. Yes.
Kenya's bold newspaper, The Standard. As we look into the headlines today, enemy of the press.
For a moment, I thought it was the enemy of the people.
Hey, we were almost getting there. There's a picture of the ICT Principal Secretary. His name is Dr. Emmanuel Kisiangani. Edward, I beg your pardon. Professor Edward Kisiangani is a walking contradiction. This is what the sub says. The ICT Principal Secretary leveraged the media to rise to his position. Yet now, he seems to have forgotten this, becoming one of the biggest threats to press freedom. He uses coercion and government business to suppress independent journalism. His latest actions have drawn condemnation from Kenyans, journalists and lawyers who argue that they are both illegal and immoral. We look into the details of that story. Interestingly, the one just below that. Visiting monarch asks Ruto to uphold free speech among other freedoms. King William Alexander, that's William Alexander, says the people of Kenya, like those of the Netherlands, want their rights as free citizens to be respected and their voices be heard. Where? I don't know. I'm being honest.
So this king is from where again?
The Netherlands.
All right. So he's come to visit us and. No. Just hold it. That can't be the only thing he said.
No, but it was just very interesting that we've picked this up because we're also.
Among the things he said.
Among the things he said.
We must contextualize what he said. For all we know, he said, you know something? The freedom that your people enjoy are the same freedoms that my people enjoy. In fact, we can learn from you. So, You really must continue respecting blah, 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 blah.
But you must understand what it does for optics when on the front page of the Standard you have this story about freedom of press and you have a visiting monarch from another country coming in to say a lot of things. But amongst the things that he said was one of these things of freedoms. And it does a good thing for optics when you're able to put that under this big headline. Follow me?
Where are we going?
We are going now to the next headline, which says...
Good morning, it is.
Healthcare workers threaten to strike. Doctors...
Who are they threatening?
The government.
Why?
Because they didn't pay them. Doctors held protests demanding better terms and threatened a nationwide strike in May if their demands are not met. So where are we? 19th of March.
Yeah.
So they've got like a month, give or take, to get it done. Do you guys know that Ednah walks on her tippy toes?
Yes, she does.
Yes, she does.
She walks the spring in her step. Or is it a step in her spring?
Something like that. How Cusco plans to recover lost 8.8 billion. Sorry. The money that was taken from Cusco is not just 2 bob. It's a lot of money. The more painful thing being that it was money that was made up of contributions. Do you have any headlines?
They had said this money could not be recovered.
Yes, but now they've said some of it can be recovered.
Some of it, why not all of it?
How they will recover this 8.8, then perhaps they can apply the same formula to recover the rest. Nespa?
I don't know. Is that all they said, really?
What's it to story?
So we should just be people
Patient.
of faith.
Yes.
And patient.
We walk by faith and not by
sight.
Thanks.
Yes.
All right. Let me look at the Star newspaper.
Okay.
MP shocked after senior politician reprimands her.
Why is she shocked?
She is headline.
Oh, okay. No,
reprimanded.
How dare you?
Uhuru era officers in EAC probe over missing billions.
Oh God.
Missing. You think the billions decided to play hide and seek?
Let's hide here for a minute.
Why senators want overhaul of MOH budget? MOH here is Ministry of
Health.
Healthy, yes. We want to withdraw roads funds case, says governors. Okay. Gambling addiction teaches Gyro costly lifelong lessons. Whoever Gyro is. State banquet in honor of King Alexander of Netherlands. Okay. I hope this king came with other things apart from telling us what we should do. All right. Bang in the middle of the paper.
Very good.
Right. Lawmakers raise fresh concerns with Shah. Whereas 18 million people have registered with the Social Health Authority, only 4 million are contributing. That is not good.
Out of the 18 million who registered, only 4 million are contributing.
Yes.
Oh, that's interesting. So I just pulled up my nifty calculator here. And if you say the 18 million people are giving that minimum of 300, and we know that it's a lot more. Let's say if they were giving the minimum of 300 shillings, what Shah would have in its accounts would be 5.4 billion shillings. Right? That would be more than enough to at least to get that first and third tier of healthcare running. No, actually, no. The money that you contribute as premiums is what is in the second tier. So actually, it should make sure that you, no matter what, are getting that healthcare. But now take that 5.4 billion shillings, sorry, CT, and you said how many are contributing? 4 million? 4 million are contributing at the minimum of 300 shillings. Minimum. Wow. Oh, no, that's wrong. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 million has 6 zeros, right? Times 300 at the minimum is 1.2 billion shillings. So can you see the discrepancy? 5.4 billion shillings vis-a-vis 1.2 billion shillings is quite a dip. So in terms of what you would be getting, and that's on the low, because we know not everybody is contributing that 300. A number of folks are contributing more than that. So can you see where the problem is? Please continue with the headline.
Yes, we are now looking at the Daily Nation headlines, online that is. Hey, this one, the bang in the middle of the page story is a bit serious, but let me go on anyway. I was imprisoned in Ghana with Nduta over drug trafficking.
You need to be careful.
Not me. I am reading the headline. Nduta. Yes, not Ndu and then Ta. It's Nduta, one name, okay? Why headlines these are? Okay. Why government contracts could be one of the 1,000 ways to die. I like this headline. Whoever coined that word. Well done. This is a wonder. Yes, it's even rhythmic.
Yeah.
Okay.
1,000 ways to die. Government contract equals death.
Yes. Congo crisis. Qatar Emir brokers ceasefire between Rwanda DRC.
Yeah.
Okay. Presidents Kagame and Tshisekedi reaffirm commitment to an immediate and unconditional ceasefire. Well done, Emir.
Okay. Well done, Emir.
Emir, I think, is the guy who
is the leader.
Who runs this country called Qatar.
Yes.
Which means he also runs the airline. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, this one you will actually like.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Revealed. You like the story. Kericho employee registered a personal mobile number to collect county fees.
Oh, wonderful. You got to give it to some people when they want to steal. They're not very smart.
No police station. Come up with your own.
Not the smartest tool in the shed, my friend. Rather, not the sharpest tool in the shed. Because you want to now go and put your name and your number and your everything. So you wonder, how did they find you?
Yeah.
Omo, you got to do a little bit.
Takes a bit of time, though. Takes a bit of time. You know, it's not as though you're going to be found the same day. Takes a bit of time.
You see, you only realize when the county funds start dipping and you're like, hii pesa inaenda wapi? Yeah.
You want to give the final headline?
No, I want Dennis to take over from the Nation.
Give us that one quickly before we take a break,
now you
shall
have the hard copy. I can rest the digital copy.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So we continue with the bang in the middle of the paper. That is the Daily Nation. Mexican cartel rent drugs lab in Kenya. Now, a new report by the United States Department of State has revealed that a methamphetamine production lab linked to a dangerous Mexican cartel had been in operation in Namanga until September last year, serving as a major indictment of the country's fight against narcotics, even as international criminal organizations continue to operate in plain sight. Mexican cartel in Namanga.
Wow.
Now, Gachagwa's allies told to vacate their fancy offices. Now, today is the deadline for committee chairpersons who were ousted following recent elections in the National Assembly to relinquish their public offices to the new leaders. Now, among those that will be affected include Kiharu MP Ndindi Nyoro, who led the powerful Budget and Appropriations Committee and who yesterday lamented over his alleged betrayal. Yesterday said anyone who has evidence that he was misappropriating those funds or directing more to his constituency
should actually bring it forward.
Evidence. Yes.
I thought it was also interesting yesterday that he said, a number of times that nobody on these things that people are saying as the reason why I've been removed as the committee chair, nobody has ever talked to me. Nobody has called me. I read it in the papers like the rest of you.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Well, puzzle as State House deletes then restores tender files on portal. Deletes then restores.
Okay.
Contract details relating to several tenders awarded by State House were deleted and then restored on a public procurement regulatory authority's portal, raising questions over the move to hide data on financial spending at the House on the Hill. Now, a Nation investigation had revealed that for the last 7 days, all contract awards by State House were missing from the public procurement information portal, where all government institutions are required to publish details of tenders they have awarded.
Maybe it was a mistake.
Well,
do you know how you can delete something and then shoot, I deleted, I need to put it.
And you restore it after it has been flagged and highlighted?
Look.
But there's a story that is actually sad. This is a story on page 3. In the digital version of the paper, it was actually the headline. Irony, sad irony of KNH doctor dying for not being able to afford care.
Oh, snap.
Yeah.
He was a KNH doctor, apparently.
Oh.
Yeah. You know, the stories in this country, just when you think you've heard of one bizarre story, you realize that you haven't even scratched the surface. They get more and more and more bizarre.
Yeah.
Crazy.
But I'd like to understand a little more about this, in all honesty.
We'll look into that in that story
Yes.
in some more details. A few more headlines and then we can take a break
Yeah, so do
real
you
quick.
want to take the Business Daily?
Yes, I actually do. Come to think of it, you want me to go into details?
Well, no, just like the tops and then we can go into details when we come back.
Top. Kenyan's uptake on Starlink slows down. Starlink was that thing which was supposed to come and compete with the Safaricom, isn't it?
Yeah, you just mentioned, who's he? Elon Musk.
Elon Musk.
Nyake.
This same guy whose name keeps appearing in the US.
Oh,
Yes.
Dodge guy, yeah.
This is the guy who invented an electric car or something.
Yeah.
He didn't actually invent it, but nonetheless, he is known for electric vehicles and so
Yes,
forth.
that's-
Elon Musk.
Yes.
There was a time he even had a spaceship or something.
Oh, yeah.
This is the
It's
same
called
Elon Musk.
SpaceX, yes. That
Okay,
one.
good
Yeah.
for him.
Yeah, nowadays I hear the president, Donald Trump, is babysitting his son. Anyway, let's continue.
No, but if you have friends and you have a son who likes to hang out with the president, see, he hangs out. For all you know, he might advise the president on a few things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kwani, you guys, it's what, Kwani?
Tuko sawa.
You think the presidents have friends?
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Lots of
And
good
some of those
babysitters.
friends have children.
Yeah.
And those children even have friends with each other.
Yeah.
But there are those who are predicting that this bromance will not last long.
Yep.
Sooner rather than later, they are going to be at each other's throats.
You said sooner, and you said sooner.
No, sooner is where some people come from, and it's in Migori. Said sooner rather than later. You're right, actually. I spoke it as though I was speaking my mother tongue. Sooner rather than later.
Sooner.
Is that better?
Better.
Not sooner.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Dennis
All
said
right,
better.
fine. Cusco targets recovery of 70% of the 8.8 billion SACO cash. Why not 100%? Ex-US envoy doubts extension of AGOA deal. It's all right.
It's okay.
Yeah, so we've heard. Thank you. How Uchumi sales plunged to 65 million after KDF spat. What?
Uchumi.
Yes.
Huh?
Yes.
Uchumi, the supermarket.
Yeah.
Yes.
Why are we still talking about Uchumi?
This was a decade ago.
Jamani.
Yeah, but the story is interesting if you like history. Okay.
History 101. Okay, City. We love
Right.
history.
Bang in the middle of the paper. Workers pay more to NSSF as regulator delays.
Relief.
E.
Okay.
RBA links new approvals to administrative hiccups. This country.
Look, it's 18 minutes to 7. Let's take a break, look at traffic real quick, and then come back and look at some of these stories in detail. I personally want CT to look into those details. My goodness. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start the weather with Spice FM.
Cloudy conditions in Nairobi, 16 degrees. We'll see highs of 24, and it's 14 and partly sunny into Nakuru with cloudy conditions at 17 in Nyeri. It's 13 and clear into Eldoret, while Mombasa will be sunny at 27. We'll see highs of 33, and we'll see highs of 33 as well in a sunny Malindi at 27. It's clear at 20 into Kisumu with highs of 28, while Kakamega at 18 is clear going to highs of 27. Kampala is cloudy at 20 with highs of 26, and at 25 it is mostly sunny in Dar es Salaam with highs of 31. Johannesburg is cloudy at 14 with highs of 20, while looking into a cloudy Mogadishu at 27. It's raining in Addis Ababa at 14. Mostly clear at 29 into Lagos with highs of 32, while a clear Kinshasa at 24 will go to highs of 33. 17 and sunny in Beijing with 5 degrees and mostly cloudy in Paris, and it's 2 degrees indeed in London and clear at 10 in New York.
Spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life.
All right, taking a look at what's happening on the roads this morning. We're still seeing a little bit of movement coming off the Thika Superhighway, and that is going to pile up as it's coming in from Githurai, hot. And also then getting onto Outer Ring. In and outbound traffic, not doing too badly. Coming out of Westlands, we'll see a bit of a build-up at some point as well. And on Mombasa Road, you're doing fine until you get right around the roundabout on Mombasa Road going towards Nyayo Stadium. But apart from that, I think we're doing all right. Let's see what happens when we click into traffic hour. Prepping towards that. Let's keep things moving and talk on SpiceFM KE on X. Hashtag the Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
It's 7:15, and we're looking at some of these stories in details. Okay. This any of the press story, we're going to have a conversation about that later on in the morning. But let's look at some other stories. Now, remember that a fisherman in Nakuru County, went missing. 3 days later, his wife and his mother, said they went to the police station and they said there is a connection between some of the KWS officers, because this is around Lake Nakuru. There's a connection between the disappearance of our son and husband and the KWS officers. Court came back later and said, actually, you know what? They don't have a case to answer because there's nothing. A few weeks later, this young man is found. His dead body is found in the water. And we're going back. As sunlight filters through acacia trees in Lake Nakuru National Park, unease grips the search party. The disappearance of 31-year-old fisherman Brian Odhiambo is no longer just a missing person case. It is a haunting mystery wrapped in secrecy, suspicion, and alleged cover-up. Odhiambo disappeared on the 18th of January under circumstances that security officers at the park cannot explain. His family insists he was among those arrested by KWS, Kenya Wildlife Service officers that day, yet no records of his detention exists. Since then, his whereabouts have remained unknown, pushing his loved ones into a desperate quest for answers. On a tense Monday afternoon, a convoy of DCI investigative officers, Kenya police, human rights activists, journalists, alongside Odhiambo's grieving family, were finally granted restricted access to the park. The reluctant permission came after an initial denial on Thursday last week by KWS, who barred investigators and family from entering the park. Under heavy scrutiny, the group entered the park through an informer, his face hidden beneath a veil, revealing only his anxious eyes. He claimed to have insider knowledge from KWS officers who disclosed the location where the bodies had been dumped. The search party navigated through Mwariki area after their initial attempt to access the park was thwarted by swelling lake waters that had submerged the roads. They passed Barut Gate before reaching Prestigious Hotel, a quiet lodge nestled along the lake's shores. There, near some solar panels at the far end, the informer pointed to a patch of disturbed soil beneath a tree. "This is the first site they brought me to. There was one body here," he said. Crime scene investigators sprang into action, capturing photographs and collecting soil samples after excavation. But after some digging, no human remains were found. Frustration mounted as Elizabeth Ouma, Brian's mother, broke down in tears. As the informer led the team deeper into the park through dense thicket, startled baboons and gazelles darted away, while watchful officers stood guard, ensuring the team's safety from wild animals. About 50 meters from where the vehicles were parked, the informer guided them to an acacia tree. There, 9 shallow holes lay scattered, 6 of them freshly dug. "This is where Brian's body was," the informer declared, pointing at one of the fresh mounds. But once again, despite extensive forensic work, no body was found. "So far, we have not found any bodies," the informer led us here, claiming this is where Brian's body was. "But as you have all seen, there is nothing. Now that we have not found anything, we are closing the search for the day. We have taken soil samples for forensic analysis." Brian's mother broke down. So just looking at, just trying to sort that volume thing, just to throw you off a little bit. For Odhiambo's family, the day's outcome was devastating. His mother, Elizabeth Ouma, stood at the edge of the site, her face etched with grief and disbelief. "I am not satisfied at all. These sites look disturbed, and I believe they moved the bodies. But what is hidden will be revealed. If they took my son's body from here and buried it elsewhere, we will find him." Brian's wife, Alvia Okoh, was equally distraught. Tomorrow marks 2 months since my husband disappeared. We want the truth. My children are suffering. Human rights activists and lawyers condemn the obstacles taking place before the investigators by the KWS management. This information came to light on Thursday. Since then, everyone has urged KWS to allow access to the site to verify whether the witness claims were true. So, how they knew that it was possible that Brian was dead was that a witness had come forward and said, these are the bodies, and he knew Brian. So now for them to come back and they say, well, we can't find anything. This is why they're saying that there's some foul play going on here. Because how do you see 9 bodies, you come out and then come back under the watch of KWS, and then now there are no bodies? Where did they go? And what exactly is happening here?
About that story we keep reading of how money disappears. If you find the money, you might find the bodies.
Abi?
Just follow it, because the truth of the matter is, something is wrong. What exactly, we're not certain, but something is definitely wrong.
Yeah. Something is wrong.
People don't just disappear.
No.
True.
No, they don't. They don't.
Disappear.
They do not.
Because you see, when we talk about these park, if the individual person was attacked by wild animals, you'd find remains somewhere.
You do find remains.
You do find remains. Yes. So this is a question of someone intentionally hiding these bodies.
Do you remember there was a time when bodies, apart from River Yala, you'd find bodies in Savo Park? Mauled, eaten, bitten, but you found them.
You found them, yeah.
Somewhere here, the Kitengele area and the environs. Again, every once in a while, one found bodies. Found.
Yeah. Ngong Forest.
Those bodies don't take themselves there.
Yeah.
Some may, others are taken. Now, what I find disturbing is we seem to have ignited a new law for respect of human lives.
Values in the bin, man.
Well, there seems to be an issue, and people end up dying. Over what exactly are they dying? And if indeed they're being killed, over what are they being killed?
Yeah.
And who is this person? Who are these people? Who are these individuals who have the mandate to decide? They seem to have a life and death leeway to determine who lives and who doesn't.
Yeah.
Who gave them that?
Yeah. And what did Brian or any of the other bodies or any of the other human beings, people whose lives had come to end, what did they have on you?
Yeah.
What did they find out? And who are you that you needed to take their lives? What happened?
And
if it was just a case of just a case of just drowning, then why do we have this?
You report this person drowned,
and then we move.
Yes.
Yeah, because that's the practice. The person drowned, take them through autopsy, let the government pathologist confirm that. I mean, it's clear cut on what needs to be done.
If they were eaten by wild animals or attacked or killed, then again, let an autopsy be done. The autopsy will tell you how exactly this particular individual met their death. This cannot be encouraged where people disappear and then the next thing you know they are dead or bits and pieces of their bodies are found God knows where. No. But for this to continue happening, it means there are people who believe they can continue doing this.
Yeah, true.
But to what end? I mean, this is the thing I find puzzling.
For what?
Yeah. What is this thing that leads you to get to a point where you decide that this person's life
should live or die?
Yes.
Yeah. You decide this person should live or die. What did they do?
What did they do?
And the fact that you're doing this, how you're operating now, whoever is involved, whether it's KWS, whether it's somebody influential, whoever, what did they do that then gives you the right to switch off and switch on the lights?
Yeah.
What did they do?
And even if they did this thing that you consider to be wrong, that's why we have the law. I mean, have them arrested, take them to court, prove your evidence.
And the law isn't you.
Isn't you, yes.
It
you're
isn't.
not the law.
Judge, jury, executioner?
No. You can't be.
I'm telling you, we need to do a check. The value that we place on human life has diminished and dwindled to a level that is embarrassing.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing. It really is. That we need to think and say, another human being, breathing, blood-thumping human being next to you, that you can decide by an order, the breath, that this person's life should be snuffed out.
Yeah, you decide.
You decide. Nah, man.
I mean, Kasirisha, let him go meet his maker.
Give us a story, Dennis, please.
Let's talk about medics Now, the tragic death of Dr. Daniel Ndenge, a young medical registrar at Kenyatta National Hospital, has sparked outrage among healthcare professionals, highlighting the plight of medics under the new health scheme. Now, the death also reveals the inefficiencies of the Social Health Authority, SHA. According to the Kenya Medical Practitioners, Pharmacists and Dentists Union, the doctor's medical bill stood at 300,000 shillings, yet SHA only covered a mere 30,000 shillings, leaving colleagues and friends struggling to raise the balance. Dr. Ndenge was pursuing his master's program at the University of Nairobi while working at KNH. However, as Deputy Secretary General of KMPDU, Dr. Dennis Miskela points out, registrars like him are caught in a system that does not recognize them as employees, denying them salaries and healthcare benefits. Now, the university admits them, takes their fees, and then dumps them at KNH. They work without supervision, generate revenue for the hospital, and yet, when they fall sick, they cannot access the very services that they do provide. Dr. Ndenge initially sought treatment at the local facility due to the high cost of care at KNH.
What? Okay. I don't know. I can't. So I told you guys I was at KNH on Monday, right? Doing the whole thing back and forth. Let me tell you something, guys. People who are going to seek care. People were in that hospital from 4 in the morning. Back and forth. You need a scan, you need a test, you need this. Somebody's told your SHA can't cover this, now you go. And these are not the only people who've come from within Nairobi.
Yeah.
By the time I was leaving there at about 5 o'clock, the people who had been there the whole day, and then you're told what? Come back on 7th of April. And I'm wondering, and let's see if we can do something for you then.
There's a time a friend of mine needed blood, so we were donating blood for him. He was supposed to go for surgery the following day. So we get to KNH. He had gone through all the processes, so all we needed was just get in, donate, and go. But when you get to the donating center, you find that there are other patients who equally are looking for blood, and they have their own people. I was at the hospital at 8 a.m. I was being attended to at around 6 p.m. And that happens because the blood as well needs to go through screening,
it needs to
checks,
be screened,
and everything before the patient actually gets the blood. So that means if he needed, say, 6-7 pints, how many of us were getting attended to? Because I remember I was the first one among around 20 other people who were waiting to donate. Surgery was meant for 8 p.m. the following day.
You know what is actually strange about what you've just told me? It's not as though you find healthcare workers sitting down, drinking tea and chatting. No, they're working.
No, they're working. They're working.
They're working.
Yeah.
And if you look at their faces, you'll find these are people who are actually overwhelmed.
They're exhausted, they're forlorn, they're tired.
They are doing the very best. How on earth did we get here? 8 to 6.
8 to 6. 8 to 6.
For 12 hours.
12 hours. And I was the first among 20 people who had come to donate blood. So others were living there at around midnight, 1 in the morning. And I was being told by someone who was being attended to that the person who attended to me was the same person who was attending to them at around 1 a.m.
Where?
And I found that medical worker there. How many hours are they pulling? At what point are they tired and they can actually give their very best? Because these are bodies.
The problem with that sort of fatigue, you will make some critical mistakes.
You will make mistakes. You will also be snapping at people.
Yeah.
You will be tired. It will take a toll on you. We're getting to the top of the hour in just a minute, but I just want to look at this headline and it'll probably give us fodder for later. I was in Ghana cell with Duta. We were forced drug mules. This is a story that you gave headlines on before CT.
Yes.
A Kenyan woman now claims she spent time in a Ghanaian prison with Margaret Duta, and who has been sentenced to death in Vietnam. Seeking to highlight the plight of Kenyan women ensnared by drug trafficking networks, the woman insists that Duta must have been coerced into transporting drugs to Vietnam under the threat of dire consequences. That's just the headline of that story, because we did hear that, according to Duta, what she knew is that she was going to work in Vietnam. She went via Ethiopia. So now many questions start to arise in terms of what happened. Did you know where you were going? Did you know what you were doing? Because if this story is true, that she spent time in a Ghanaian prison with somebody else, then it's not her first run at the rodeo. It has been happening. So the question is really, what on earth is going on? We'll look into details of that story later and a few more things.
Congo says some devolved units reported expenditures exceeding 100%, with 38 of them failing development expenditure threshold in the financial year 2023-2024. Speaking during the 5th National County Assembly Summit in Nairobi, Nyakango attributed the setback in the fight against corruption to the MCA's relationship with governors.
Some MCAs will align with the governors, thereby compromising the oversight function. Inflated contracts. Yeah? So with the best of intentions, if these corruption risks persist, we may not succeed in our oversight. We know that the ceiling for development expenditure is a minimum of 30%. Not 30% allocation, but 30% spending.
Nyakango also asked MCAs to complete beneficial projects pioneered by their predecessors as a way of tackling 180 billion shillings in pending bills as of December 2024. Meanwhile, the Commission on Revenue Allocation Commissioner Fatuma Gedi has accused the Senate of failing to consult before approving the 400 billion shillings allocation to counties.
In the last formula, you remember how people fought? The formula had a lot of challenge. It had to have like 11 adjournments in the Senate.
And however, ward representatives through County Assemblies Forum Secretary General Shege Mwaura promised to take up
independent office players and their specific roles. Senate is also represented, guys of National Assembly, of course the State Department of Devolution. So it gives us a bigger scale of what you do other than oversighting your own specific governor and the few CCs member around your specific county.
The Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission will decide on April 20th whether to join the case in which Thika High Court Chief Justice Stella Tambo is challenging a warrant to search her house. Now, Judge Tambo, who has served in the judiciary for years, is facing a corruption case following allegations that many of her decisions, or that it has a legal right to be heard in the case. Defending the statement, EACC lawyers insisted that the Commission has been entrusted with the power to conduct investigations and has been given a warrant to search private homes if necessary. EACC also continued its defense, saying that as investigators, they have the right to apply to the court for a warrant to conduct an investigation without involving the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions. The Commission also claimed that the ODPP currently has no role in the ongoing investigation against Judge Tambo. The King's entourage will travel to Naivasha via Maimahi today. The Police Traffic Department states that all trucks will be rerouted to control traffic. In Naivasha, the King, Willem, Alexander and Queen Maxima will visit the Inland Container Depot, which is a major storage facility for dry export products. Meanwhile, traffic disruptions will also be witnessed along Thika Superhighway as the King of Lesotho is expected to visit factories near Clayworks, Ruiru and a school in Ruiru town. Motorists have been urged to plan their journey in advance to avoid any inconvenience that might be caused by the closure of the key road. Now, police officers and traffic marshals will be on site to assist and enforce traffic management during this period. That's the news wire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
All right, Wednesday not looking too bad in terms of traffic, and I think we're moving along really swiftly without too much of an issue. Let's take a quick look at the Thika Superhighway where most of it is this morning. It's coming in from Githurai, and you'll find some pockets of bumper-to-bumper traffic just past the Allsops Junction. There is some inbound traffic coming from Outer Ring, and that then will add to the traffic already on the Thika Superhighway, pretty thick as you get into the city. And also on Kiambu Road, we're seeing some traffic. It is heavy as you come past those DCI headquarters gates, and then also on Kangunda Road, inbound traffic, as usually will be the case, is busy this morning. The Eastern Bypass is starting to build up, and we're not even in traffic hour yet. It looks good on the Southern Bypass as you try to make your scenic route into the city and out of the city as well, then going via the Southern Bypass towards Limuru Road. It's also busy coming in on Ngong Road. Naivasha Road has some traffic, and it's all coming into the city this morning. We're going to keep an eye on things, trying to keep things moving. Let's talk SpiceFM, KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
A good morning to you at 6 minutes after 7 o'clock and into the second hour of Kenya's biggest conversation this Wednesday, getting into the peak of the week. And even as we do, conversations that matter and need to be had will always be had here in the Situation Room. And so some of the things that we are talking about today is an education conversation. So many things have been happening over the last couple of years concerning education. And one of those issues is what we'll be looking at today. But let me remind you that if you imagine biting into your favorite foods again without the fear of pain, just imagine that stone cold ice cream or that hot, super hot coffee, just the way you like it. Well, you don't have to imagine anymore, because Sensodyne is here to give you the ultimate relief from tooth sensitivity. And how do we know this? Well, because it's the #1 recommended brand by dentists. And with World Oral Health Day coming up, we are reminding you that a happy mouth is a happy mind. And to get this, Sensodyne is giving you 50% off on select products to keep your teeth strong. So grab your pack from any Carrefour, Naivas, Chandarana or Quickmart stores from the 20th to the 23rd of March. So Sensodyne for tooth sensitivity relief and everyday oral health. And so here we are having that education conversation, and joining us in the room this morning is Ndungu Wagenye, who is the National Secretary, Kenya Teachers in Hardship and Arid Areas Welfare Association, otherwise known as KEVAWA, and the former CECM Education for Nyandarua County. So you're here this morning, and we want to say Karibu Sana.
Thank you very much. I'm happy also to join you this morning.
Thank you for being here. We're going to be talking about things education. One of the big ticket items, of course, that we mentioned earlier on in the show was that, you know what, math or no math, and that's what we'll be talking about today. Is it absolutely necessary? The Principal Secretary, State Department rather, of Basic Education, Belio Kipsang, Doctor, told us a couple of days ago that math will no longer be compulsory when it comes to selection of courses at the senior secondary level. We'll be talking about that today. But in true Situation Room style, we want to welcome you to the show. CT, this young man to your left, goes around the African continent every week. He comes to a different country, and every week he brings us proverbs from that country. So this week, he'll tell you where we are, and he'll tell you the proverb, and you will please interpret that for us and tell us what it means to you.
Okay.
All right.
Welcome.
Yes, we are in the Republic of Sudan, a beautiful country, Africa's third largest country, Africa's third largest producer of gold. Believe it or not, this is a country that is rich in agriculture, okay? 60% of its population lives and thrives on agriculture. Now, the thing I've often found puzzling is when I look at the problems this country has, it's a member of the UN, it's a member of the AU, it's a member of the Arab League. And yet from the time it got its independence in 1958, it has had 7 coups. So you wonder, these memberships that people have, what purpose do they actually serve? Because I would have assumed that one of these fellows would have picked up this thing and said, guys, why don't we sit and talk about this? But, story for another day. The proverb. O digger of a pit of wickedness, widen your lying place in it.
Repeat the proverb.
I will do so. O digger of a pit of wickedness, widen your lying place in it. The 8 here being the pit.
You need me to interpret?
Yes,
Please.
absolutely.
Please.
Those digger of a big pit, they actually widen it for them. So in other words, when you dig a big hole and you widen it, you are the one to fall in that hole. So it therefore means that you have to be very careful when you are digging a hole to make sure that it is not so wide for you. You end up being falling there. And that is my interpretation of the proverb, if I got it correctly.
The thing about your interpretation is that it can't be wrong. We ask for your interpretation. There's a story in the Bible told of a man whose master was about to sack him. And he was a steward, so he was in a position to determine what his master had in day-to-day language, his boss, his employer had, and what didn't have. So what did he do? He called people who owed his employer. And said, this one which you owe, 50, make it 25. This one you 100, make it 50, like that. And the Bible goes on to say this man was praised. He said, this is a man who knows how to look after his future. Because he was laying the path for when he left, because he knew he was going to leave, he could go to these people and said, did I not make life easy for you? Now it's your turn. If he was living in Kenya, he would have said, I'm giving you this discount, but just give me my share now. Yes, that's what a Kenyan would have done.
Bringing it closer home.
Indeed. Great way to get it off, isn't it?
Interpretation.
Absolutely. So, let's look at the news and what the news said about this particular issue before we dive into the conversation, shall we? Yes. Mathematics will no longer be compulsory subject for learners transitioning to senior secondary school. Now, let's establish that senior secondary school is grade 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay? Marking one of the most radical changes under the competency-based curriculum. Instead, students will be required to take English or Kenya Sign Language, Kiswahili, Physical Education and Community Service, learning as mandatory subjects, while choosing from a pool of 38 options to shape their academic and career journeys. This is a shift from the outgoing 844 system, where mathematics was a core subject alongside English, Kiswahili, and at least 2 sciences, physics, chemistry, or biology. Basic Education Principal Secretary Belio Kipsang announced Tuesday last week that grade 9 learners, the Pioneer CBC class, will begin selecting their subjects and senior schools in the second term of this year. That's in another month or so. And he says we are giving them time to go home so that parents and learners can consult on their interests and what they wish to pursue. The selection process will begin immediately when they return to school. Additionally, the Ministry of Education has proposed limiting the number of learners from a single junior secondary school joining the same senior school to a maximum of 5. So those are other details. But this is what we're looking at now, that in term 1, when they come back from the 3-week holiday around Easter, they will come back to school and they'll start making the selections, whereby mathematics was compulsory. It was one of the core subjects. Now what they're saying is it's no longer going to be a core subject, and it seems that everybody's gotten their knickers in a twist. Why, Ndungu?
Thank you. One, let me first just correct you that senior school is not grade 9, 10, 11 and 12.
Sorry, it's actually 10, 11 I beg your pardon, 12. Right? It's 10, 11 and 12 because junior school is 7, 8 and 9. Exactly. I beg your pardon.
Yeah. And just to Google our mind or flashback our minds a bit, this grade junior secondary school, initially it was supposed to be domiciled in secondary schools, the current existing secondary schools. Say for the year 2022, when the new Kenya Kwanza government came into power, and there was established Presidential Working Party on education reforms. And I remember quite very well, I was a CEC in charge of education in Nyandarua County. And that is when the parents gave the participation, during public participation. And they said, these kids are a bit too tiny.
Too young
to move to secondary schools. Because we are speaking of maybe your son is taken from Nairobi and at grade now 7, all the way maybe to Kisumu, or maybe to Turkana or Mombasa, wherever.
How old are children of that age? Of that class?
A child of grade 6, maybe 10, 11 years. Okay? So you're speaking, there's still a toddler. This is somebody who is not yet out of the mother's laps. So that child will require a lot of a mother's care than when he is just alone, being combined with other boys who are age 18. Because by the time they are finishing actually grade 12, some of them will be age 18. Some of them will even be 19 already with IDs.
Yes.
Or maybe anticipating to take the ID.
True.
So that is how it came to be. Now, let me just come back to the questions you have just asked. And let me just speak from the foundation that I am a mathematics teacher by profession and by training. My first degree was Bachelor of Education in Science, Mathematics and Chemistry. Later I pursued Masters and I later pursued law and I became a lawyer and an advocate of the High Court. But now, that notwithstanding, it is that what is this in mathematics that is making mathematics that it has, we are insisting as parents, because I also am a father of 3 kids and my firstborn is actually in Form 3, the old system. But why are we insisting and why is it that the ministry want to make the mathematics is not compulsory? Number one, the ministry and the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, initially it was called KIE.
Yes.
The one in somewhere in Gara.
Yes.
You remember that one?
Yes, I do.
Initially, where they established the CBC, and currently it's not called the CBC, it's called CBE, Curriculum-Based Education. They established 3 pathways. The first pathway is what we call STEM.
Yes.
That is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. The second pathway is sports. Okay? And the third pathway is called arts. Now, when those people are pursuing, they only now insisting that only those kids who will be pursuing STEM will take mathematics as compulsory, because you cannot do without mathematics if you are pursuing engineering. I'm sure somebody who designed this building, came up with this beautiful architect, is a very sharp mathematician, because he has to measure the dimension, he has to know where the columns are, where the pillars will be, and all that. Okay? Somebody who is also pursuing mathematics in general, like you are pursuing pure mathematics, statistics. I did statistics in university, my first degree. And you have to be conversant with that mathematics. Somebody also who is doing technology, he has also to be conversant with the numbers and mathematics.
Yes.
And that is why they insisted only those who are pursuing STEM will make mathematics compulsory. Those who are pursuing sports, to the thinking of KICD, they said they don't require mathematics. But now, this is where we are coming in as parents, as also as stakeholders, because I am a serious stakeholder in education sector. And we are saying, yes, they may not require that deep mathematics, like the ones we are doing in university, the topology, the linear geometry, okay, they are the geometry. Are we together?
Yes.
But they require general mathematics, because even somebody, like now, I'm a lawyer also by profession. Whenever you are making submissions in court, like maybe when you are doing, I need to require the number of properties the deceased has. I have to tabulate them. Value, how much is their value in terms of Kenya shillings or in dollars or whatever currency it is. And then distribute the number of dependents that are there. If I don't have basics mathematics, and I just give to my friend here or my friend here to do the tabulation for me and bring it back to me, even when he misleads me, I may not know.
Absolutely.
Deeper bit of mathematics. Okay, when you speak of maybe statistics, when you speak of trigonometry, when you speak of calculus, people tend to run away. Those are some of the units that were feared during the time we were doing mathematics in high school. But when you bring general mathematics of numbers, that is a basic requirement in any course or whatever you may be doing, be it a doctor, be it a lawyer, be it a sports person, be it an artist. You require that basic mathematics. There was public participation the whole of last week, and we are telling the ministry and the KICD, please, let us review this. Let's see how minimum can we do that mathematics. So that quiet when it is too late and we have wasted a generation.
So, I mean, it is obvious that when you look across board, there's a very basic mathematics that anybody would need in whatever field you're going to enter into. At a very basic level.
Exactly.
So to deem it necessary to say it's no longer compulsory, knowing full well this other side, why would they do that?
Maybe, I think there was no intense and deep participation, particularly from the stakeholders. Because I'm a stakeholder, okay? I give my input, or I may have given my input. I may not have given my input. There is another stakeholder. There are unions that represent teachers also. As we represent teachers those who are in hardship, they are parents, a serious stakeholder. There is parent association, Okay, there is the sponsors, the faith-based institution that sponsors schools, the Catholics, the PCA, like the alliance. It was formed through Alliance of Churches. Okay, all those stakeholders. If there was intense consultation, and particularly also to the subject experts. Yesterday, I saw a press release by Institute of Engineers of Kenya saying that mathematics is at least a requirement. I also saw another tweet from a very senior advocate in this country, Nelson Harvey, who was former LSK chairperson, saying that even if we may not require all these deep-rooted mathematics, at least we require the basics mathematics. So those are serious stakeholders. If we can just pause a minute and listen to them, maybe we can tilt a bit. We are not yet over, because this is, as I'm saying, CBE is a working document. It is still in continuation. It's not an end on itself. It's not yet complete. We are still building on it. So I still believe, and I believe that there is time to continue building and making it even better, so that the mathematics that we shall be putting in the other two pathways, say for STEM, will also be the minimum requirement of mathematics and not the deep mathematics that we may go for somebody who is doing STEM pathway.
Now,
what?
You go first. I give you the opportunity today. Okay, Ndungu.
Yes.
As we talk about the basic of mathematics in all that we do in life, everyone at some point comes in contact with mathematics. And when the president was forming the presidential working party, they went across the country seeking advice from different stakeholders, parents and whatnot. But it is a situation where the decision on mathematics is being given as a policy from the government without involving everybody, as was done during the presidential working party, which begs the question, why would the government in its place make such a decision without consultation? Is it that at this point, consultation that was done during the presidential working party is enough, and that further decisions being made is a decision to be made by the ministry itself?
I'll answer that question and by saying this way. There is, and I have a privilege, having worked with the former head of public service, Governor Francis Kimemia. He was former head of public service in the Republic of Kenya during President Kibaki's reign.
Yep.
And there are two things that he used to tell us. There is making the policy, and there is execution bit of it. Now, anytime you make a policy, and even in law, anytime you make a registration or an act of parliament or a statute, then there is the person who is supposed to execute it. This comes on what we call the standard operating procedures. Now, we have the presidential working party has gone to the field. Okay, they have said we want 3 pathways on a CBE, curriculum-based establishment, or curriculum-based education. We want STEM, we want arts and sports, and we want social sciences. But now, the nitty-gritties on what will be the details that will be the specific subject that will be learned in specifically that pathway of STEM. The specific details of subject that will be learned in arts and sports. The specific details of that what to be learned in social sciences. Who is to develop that? It is KICD.
Yes,
it is not as the parents.
No.
It is not even the bigger ministry. It is not even another big stakeholder
That's
like
why
Teacher Service
KICD
Commission.
was set up.
That is why KICD is there. Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development. So that they go into finer details, so that for a child to succeed along this line, he requires subject A. Actually, KICD even develop the number of hours you are supposed to take in each and given subject. Take maybe mathematics, for example, because it's a contentious one. They'll say for the mathematics, for 1 week, you need 48 hours, or you need 24 hours. In combined, okay? So they go into finer details and to make sure, and they keep on reviewing those policies so that they are in tandem, because they may allocate a lot of time to mathematics and later realize, chemistry needed more time than mathematics, then they reallocate. And that is why we have subjects even in a classroom. A subject is going for 40 minutes, another one is going for 35 minutes, another one is going a double lesson, another one does not have a double lesson. Why all that? It is because KICD looks at the specific details, and that is what we call in normal management system, standard operating procedures that are developed by the implementers. So here we are pinning the KICD, Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, the implementers, to come and review and say, instead, because we have agreed with the pathways, that one is not contentious, and I I presume so, even from this room. It is not contentious even with the parents. It is not contentious with other stakeholders. But this specific one of mathematics, what can we do to make sure that we get it back on track?
There's a discussion that I've heard from the time I could understand discussions, and this was whether maths was a science or an art subject. I want you to tell me, what do you think?
Yes, by the way, and thank you very much for that question. Actually, when I was pursuing maths, because I did Bachelor of Education in Science. Science.
Yes.
We were doing mathematics. Those who are pursuing Bachelor of Education in Arts, they were also doing mathematics. What does that tell us? Maths cuts across. Because you would find somebody, we're in the same university, maybe he's being trained to be an arts teacher, Bachelor of Education in Arts. He is taking mathematics and geography as his teaching subjects. Me, I take mathematics and chemistry, but mine is Bachelor of Education in Science, but for him is Bachelor of Education in Arts. So I agree with you. Maths cut across the board. And even somebody who has even done medicine will require mathematics.
I also studied Bachelor of Education.
Good.
But in linguistics and literature. We did not study maths. That is, of course, if I consider statistics, not maths. We study statistics. You cannot study education as a subject without studying statistics. But the thing that opened my mind to the question I'm asking, there is a subject we study called philosophy of education. And when you look at philosophy, there's a subset of philosophy called logic. Logic is where you now begin to understand critical thinking and problem solving. Maths is at the core of critical thinking and problem solving.
Very good.
That's why it cuts across everything. Engineering is an exact science. You have to think. You have to solve problems. Engineering solves problems. So when somebody is busy working out the mathematical formulas, you're actually solving a problem. So if we take just that component of problem solving, how then do you say, as KICD, that you do not want people to develop their problem solving and critical thinking capacities? Because that is what you will have done.
Yes.
How? Where is the justification? Just on that premise alone.
Let me say this, that there has been various reforms at KICD, and one of them is even renaming the institute itself from being an institute to a curriculum development center. And even in the management. And I'm happy because majority of those people who came from KICD, today they hold some of the senior positions. One of them is the current Kenya National Examinations Council CEO, Dr. Jengere. He was former director, KICD. Today we have Professor Ogondo, also a very qualified professor, who is the director KICD. And one of the things that maybe, and that is what I'm also repeating this maybe for clarity purpose, is that the reforms that have been taken to KICD, and today, even if you write a book, you and him and I, or maybe with her, we write a book. Today, before it is admitted to schools to be used in the curriculum, it has to be assessed and approved by KICD. Okay? Initially, you could find that he writes a book, and it is in the market, and it is, with our children in the classroom, which has not been approved by the institute. What kind of knowledge are we disseminating to those young kids that has not been cross-checked by the experts in particular subject? Today, even as a CEC of education in Nyandarua, because we are in charge totally of village polytechnics and ECDs, that is nursery schools.
Yes.
Despite the fact that as a devolved function, we couldn't buy a single book without an approval of KICD.
I really have to ask here that I wouldn't want to imagine that the Ministry of Education would make a decision like this without some kind of reasoning, without some, at the very basic level, some kind of justification. And since we've already been able to establish that mathematics is a subject that cuts across all others, or the other themes and foundations, then there must have been something that would have informed this proposal whereby they say it's no longer compulsory. It's a strong subject. One would have seen that it would make more sense if you said, okay, fine, look at something else and say, okay, that's not compulsory, you don't have to deal with that. But not something like mathematics. And I'm still wondering what that possibly could have been that they would say, all right, let's not make it what kind of chatter about mathematics have you heard from the time that you were in school to coming out to practice it by teaching it? What kind of chatter have you heard about this subject, perhaps that would fuel this decision that we are seeing being made at ministry level?
If I could just stop up on that, is one of the reasons is the decision is meant to reduce poor performance and high failure rate in mathematics by allowing learners to focus on subjects that match their strengths and career
That's
goals.
running away from a problem as opposed to facing it head on.
Is that what was reported, or is that what was said? Are they quoting what was said specifically?
And quote the authority.
It is one of the reports that was given by one of the dailies.
And the report, what report was this?
Who said it?
Yeah.
Quote the authority.
Yeah. Who said it?
Yes.
Yes.
Because that's,
where and when?
That is detriment. If truly that is what was said, then it looks as a situation whereby you're running away from a problem as opposed to facing it head on and saying, how can we fix it? Which is why I asked, what is the chatter that we've heard about mathematics that you've heard while in its practice that may have brought about something like this?
I think, and Madam, allow me also to answer that question with another question also before I answer that. What also could have informed, because as I'm telling you, this is a working document, what would have informed initially? We say junior secondary school will be domiciled in secondary school, and actually there was a heavy investment in terms of infrastructure, human resource and money to make sure that junior secondary school are domiciled in secondary school, whereby we would be having 6 classes in current secondary school and 6 classes in primary. And again, all of a sudden it was changed, and junior secondary school now is domiciled in the previous primary school. Actually, the junior secondary school, it took the laying of former CS education, Matiang'i, and Magoha, for a period of about 6 years to put infrastructure, do capacity building for teachers, something a program called retooling, invest even in establishing and designing of books and materials to be used in junior secondary school. All of a sudden, it is falling back to primary school. Today, we are again saying there are not enough classrooms. So what I'm saying is this, mathematics, from my interaction with it, and I agree with him 100%. It actually even opens up our mind. The critical thinking that is there in mathematics, even if it is not deep-rooted, whenever you give a student a mathematical concept or a problem to interact with, whether that, and that is why mathematics, the only uniqueness in a subject whereby marks are not awarded, not given, awarded on the right answer. Marks awarded on methodology, on all the way to the answer.
Yes. And that's why your math teacher,
yes.
and I still remember it from till now, that's why your math teacher would insist and tell you, fine, give me the answer, but I want to see how you
arrived at the answer.
Exactly.
Right? Exactly. And that is the opening he is speaking about and we are speaking about. That methodology, even if you go 3 steps and fail, maybe the mathematics problem has 10 marks, and you go 3 steps and you fail the 7, at least you have gone the 3 steps and you have made an inroad. And that is why the marks would be awarded 3 out of 10 on the same question. Okay? That is why in mathematics we don't mark the answer, we mark the method and the answer. So we mark both of them
Can
together.
I ask a question?
That is opening our
Can I ask the question?
Yes.
In response to what Dennis quoted? Yes. How do we teach our teachers of mathematics? How do we train them?
Okay, Siti, I want you to hold on to that question, please. And I'm sorry to have not done that before you started to ask. But let's take a break, shall we?
Okay.
Let's take a break, and then, Ndongo, you can think about that as we come back, because I think it is very important. If we're talking about failure and wanting to run away from having to sort out these issues, then that's a bigger problem than making it not compulsory anymore. So we'll come back and deal with that after this break. It's 25 minutes to 8 o'clock. We're dealing with the math or no math issue when it comes to selection of subjects in the education system. Don't go away. We'll be back after this.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. The weather with SpiceFM.
17 degrees and cloudy conditions in Nairobi. It is 15 and sunny in Nakuru with 17 and cloudy conditions in Nyeri. And looking into a sunny Eldoret at 16 and Mombasa at 27 is sunny with sunny conditions at 27 as well in Malindi. 20 and sunny in Kisumu with 18 and sunny conditions into Kakamega. Kampala is cloudy at 20 while Dar es Salaam at 25 is sunny at the moment. We're looking into a 14 and sunny conditions in Johannesburg, while Mogadishu at 28 is sunny and it's raining still in Addis Ababa at 14. Clear at 28 in Lagos with clear conditions at 23 in Kinshasa.
Spice FM. Spice up your life.
All right, calculating what traffic looks like this morning, and it looks a bit sticky as you come off the Thika Superhighway. There is traffic also as you come into Langata Road and you get towards the roundabout coming in from Gong Road. So that's doing the thing, and we are in traffic hour now officially. Kangunda Road, busy. The Thika Superhighway, busier. There's also traffic coming into Outer Ring in and outbound as you approach or go away from the Thika Superhighway. Traffic coming in on Kiambu Road as well. And we're looking into traffic that comes in from Muthaiga, Limuru Road. That also is starting to do the thing. All right, folks want to know what traffic is looking like in other cities in the country, and we'll bring that in a short while. We'll go to Mombasa, Kisumu, Eldoret, and other parts of the country as well, coming in the next update. SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
At now 23 minutes to the top of the hour, having a conversation this morning with Ndungu Wangenye, and we're looking at the issues around the decision to take away the math as a compulsory option in subject selection. CT? There was
what Dennis read. Relates to the logic and the reasons that are being quoted as having been stated by KICD. I don't know what it is they actually said, but that because of poor performance. So I asked the question, how do we train our teachers of mathematics? I say this as somebody who taught for 19 years. And whether students pass the subject you taught in an exam directly relates to you, not the student, you. If the student has a weakness, it is your job as a teacher, and you're trained to do this to ensure that they understand the subject matter to the point where they can actually pass it. So, how do we train our teachers of maths?
Thank you, and I can see Madam Du is looking at me because I'm a maths teacher.
Absolutely.
I'm trained as such. Let me say this, that there is a difference between you as a teacher learning mathematics and learning how to disseminate the information or the knowledge of mathematics to the student. Those are two totally different things. And currently, I would want to say this, that the training that is there, actually it has improved from the previous. And if Mr. Dennis, CT would remember, during the year time, if you are ever a teacher, I think you used to get even your appointment letter.
Taught for 19 years.
19 years. Yes. Appointment letter right from the university.
You got the appointment before you finished your exam.
Before you even finish university. And of late, Madam Du and Dennis, you realize that performance of mathematics has actually improved. Why? One, it is because of the current training. The current training, as compared to previous years. Previous years, there was a mass failure in mathematics. Of late, although the improvement is gradual and progressive, but there is, a notable improvement in the performance. And that was even attributed by the Kenya National Examinations Council when they were releasing the exams for last year, that one of the subjects that recorded some improvement was mathematics. The reason is, the current training now establishes that before you qualify to be a mathematics teacher, okay, you have to take a minimum, and I repeat, a minimum of 16 units in university of maths. That is number one. A minimum of 16. Then from the minimum of 16 units, then you also take another 16 units minimum for philosophy of education, curriculum, and also encroach together and combine together with the teaching practice. I don't know whether that was their training at that time.
It was in the it was in the curriculum for training.
Yes.
As a teacher, I'm wondering what it is that happened.
Good.
When we were trained as teachers, we went through this.
Good.
Absolutely.
Now, number two.
Yes.
I'm not finished. I've not finished. Number two. After you got employed as a teacher and you start teaching, there is what we call, now today we have, and I don't know whether you have heard of it, SMES, Center for Mathematics and Sciences in Africa.
Yes.
That is a training whereby all mathematics and science teachers, every holiday, we used to attend cluster forums in the respective counties.
What were you trained in? What did they train you in?
No. It is capacity building on the subjects you are teaching. Okay? Also, emerging with the new methodologies of teaching and the new technology.
But
that is why it was being done at counties, and even it would cascade to the headquarters here in Karen.
But Mwalimu, this in-servicing or capacity building.
And in-service training.
Yeah, you're being trained in something. What was the focus?
The focus was to make sure that the methodology of disseminating that information, you are here, you are a mathematics teacher, all the knowledge you have in your head. But how do we get that knowledge
from your head
to the student?
And
those are two different
things. And despite all these people are still failing maths.
And that is why I'm telling you, Mr. CT, that there is improvement in performance of maths as compared to previous years. It may not be very much significant, but there is a notable improvement.
And
that is why the training was changed from, apart from now, just getting out from your degree and going. I'm sure City never went for semester training throughout his 19 years.
I studied
because he was a teacher of English,
and even those of his age group, I'm sure they never underwent that because this one came later. Center for Mathematics and Sciences
and
to build capacity.
Still, students were doing badly in maths, so that when there's a slight improvement, we celebrated a slight improvement.
Yes.
There was something which was wrong, and we never understood what was wrong.
Naturally, mathematics is not an easy subject.
No, actually it is.
And this is where I think we need to be going with this, because if the reasoning, and I just want to go through something that you've shared just now, Dennis. If the reasoning is that, number one, there's an element of difficulty. Number two, the way in which this information, by your own admission, is passed then from teachers to students, that there's a problem there. And that's why my insistence is, rather than chuck the whole thing out the window and say that, okay, fine, if it's too difficult, let's not go towards it, as opposed to try to fixing the problem, that's where we should be focusing. This public participation should be round about the conversation where we're saying, what can we do to make it better? Kiswahili is also a subject that students suffer with or struggle with immensely every year. In fact, if we look at the grades of Kiswahili have been dropping significantly over the last years. Why did we not say chuck Swahili out the window as well? So that's the question, that do we run away from a problem or do we address it? Allow me to read this. According to Professor Charles Ongondo, we have been wasting a lot of children as mathematics may not be relevant to them. This is what he said. You look at what's been serving you and what can be improved. Mathematics as a selective subject as the pre-career stage is a global practice and not a new phenomenon to the Kenyan context. He went on to say, mathematics for junior school covers all the general knowledge in mathematics for one to be numerically literate. For those pursuing arts, sports and humanities, mathematics is still available for them, but it is not compulsory. Under CBC, critical thinking and problem solving is a core competency. It is important to note that while the foundational skills are developed by mathematical and logical thinking, this is core competency is not a preserve of mathematics. The curriculum in all learning areas and subjects has been made made provision for development of this core competency. Another question came from Dr. David Njengere, who said that making mathematics compulsory only benefits a few learners. How is mathematics helping if 30% are scoring E's? We're forcing them to do what's not aligned to their potential, ability and interest. Let's start by appreciating that not all of us will fit in the formal careers. And I have a problem with that.
That logic is completely
and I'll also
warped.
challenge Dr. Njengere and Professor Ogondo. They are my close friends. Huh?
No.
I would challenge them this way, that fine, what we are saying is initially, everybody could learn mathematics to the deepest part of it. Today, what you are saying, and even those who did, he did statistics. That was general statistics. It's not deep-rooted statistics, but it is a mathematics concept in it. Okay? Those of us who are doing BA in university, they did a unit called general mathematics. General. And it is at university, and it was a core subject at the university for those who are doing BA and BSc. General. It doesn't matter which course you are doing, but you have to do general mathematics. Why are you doing? Today, there is also another unit that has been introduced called communication skills. Isn't it? Whether you are doing engineering, because as an engineer, will you not communicate at one time? That is what we call literacy and numericals. Those are basic things that should never be left out. What we should be doing, and I challenge Dr. Jengere and Professor Ogondo, is that we should not get so much deep into those people who are doing the rest of the two pathways, that is social sciences and that is sports. But there must be general standard minimum requirements.
This justification that you're reading speaks of somebody who's simply scraping the bottom of a barrel to justify something which even they don't seem convinced. Look, when something appears to be difficult and the difficulty is manifested in the failure of students, it is not the subject. It is the teacher. Let me repeat. That's why I asked, how are they taught? And methodology is all good and well. Students don't learn simply because you're speaking and explaining things. Students look at the teacher, how the teacher relates to the subject,
how he communicates.
If a teacher loves the subject, chances are those students are going to love that subject
as well.
So, if you're teaching a subject and it is a clear teeth pulling exercise and your students can see it, even they will respond. The problem has been the mindset of those who train teachers. How do you get teachers to have the mindset where maths is taught as something enjoyable and
CT, I think you're onto something here because just a couple. And sometimes we have to use an example to further a conversation. So you know how in schools, now it has become the flavor of the month, whereby parents are invited to school to have a meeting with their teachers, the subject teachers, and see what's going on. And I remember just this January, and I went to my daughter's school, and the math teacher looked like he had bitten a lemon, and he just didn't look like a happy fella. And I'm now being able to relate it with what you're saying now. And he's had the list there and he's saying, well, they've just not understood this thing. And I've tried to make them to understand it. And I thought to myself, really, there's something wrong here. Because already from the position that you have taken, this is the national school, one of the top in the country. And this is the attitude that this gentleman has taken. Like, you know what? I've taught it. If they don't understand it, there's nothing I can do. They just need to go and do some more work. No. So I hear you that there needs to be the connection there that, if you don't love it, that it doesn't matter what school they're in. It can be your top national school in the country. It can be a hoity-toity private school in the suburbs of wherever. It doesn't matter. You don't love it, these students are not going to love it. And that's why I think making this thing non-compulsory is running away from the problem that needs to be handled. And we'll find that we do that a lot. Instead of dealing with the issue, we want to color it as something else.
And that is why, Madam I challenge City. That is why there is SMES, the Center for Mathematics and Sciences in Africa.
That's the system.
And that is why it was brought, it was introduced in this country. Actually, we are the center, in Africa. That is why it brought in the idea of making sure that the information the teacher has is disseminated to the student. But finally, before I give CT also a chance, I see he wants to react. The Asian tigers, the likes of Singapore, Malaysia, and all that, because they usually pick, and I will tell you this, Madam Du, they usually pick some of the best performing students here in Kenya in mathematics and sciences, and some of them are incorporated in their learning institutions in Japan and those Asian tigers for the sake of the technology and the knowledge of mathematics and sciences they have. Other African countries usually come to our semester in Kenya to learn how our teachers are being retooled, how our teachers are being going in service training in Karen, in semester. So what we are doing is this, let's not run away from this problem, as you are saying it. Let's not run away from it. But now, Madam Du, I would say this, all is not lost yet. This is still a working document, and I'm saying CBC or CBE for that matter is still under improvement. The more we give our input, the more we contribute to it, the more we shall make it better. But something I can tell you, the train has taken off on CBE or CBC.
Okay.
We cannot stop it at this moment. What we can do, we can keep on improving as we move into the future so that we incorporate and make sure that the content, the content that is there in mathematics, for those who are doing the rest of pathways for the STEM, is tabulated and culminated by KICD to fit the concept requiring the entire of mathematical concept that we learn in university.
You know, there are popular urban myths. One of them is maths is difficult. I taught the English language in Mombasa, and that popular myth was there with the English language that it is difficult.
Yeah.
I've heard that popular myth said about Kiswahili as well. I've heard it said about physics.
Okay, I was doing better in Kiswahili than even English.
Yes. I have heard it said about literally every subject that is taught. Maths, unfortunately, gets a bad rap from day one because children have parents. If your parents didn't like maths, they will speak ill of maths.
Trickles down, yeah.
So as you're being brought up, you again, I'm going back to mindset. You believe maths is difficult. Before you've even tackled it, you approach it from the point of view it is difficult. Not that it's enjoyable. The world as we know it and the monumental changes we've had with civilizations have been anchored in maths. Whether they're talking about pyramids, whether they're talking about the huge buildings, whether they're talking about bridges, it doesn't matter what you think about. I marvel at what KICD is doing. The very foundation of this civilization that we speak of have been grounded in this subject in one way or the other. Yes. And then you are saying that you want to deny a certain sector of the community this ability to contribute to what was already done. It's extremely strange. I have to ask the question, where's the pressure coming from? Because clearly, pressure is coming from somewhere that this thing must change and it must go in a certain direction.
Yeah, and
because these guys are falling over themselves explaining this simple thing.
I hear you, City, and there's something you've raised earlier in terms of how our teachers being trained to teach mathematics, because I've just been checking online. There's a teacher in South Africa who's been using amapiano and music arts to teach mathematics, and the data shows that the students have actually been performing well because every time they come through solving problems, they remember how the teacher was teaching it, and even the music and even the formulas have been coined into amapiano and music. It's easier for students to remember.
Then it's consider, how is it that a whole subsect of human beings in Southeast Asia, how is it that they seem to be so very good in this subject?
Mathematics.
What? Is it that they eat more seafood? Is it that the air they breathe has mathematical formulas in it? What is it? If you look at it and you examine it, believe me, it's their culture.
Yes.
Even the way their language is structured, it's the mindset, the emphasis that parents put in it,
government intervention.
So
all these things.
Dongo, can the approach, you talk about, having gone to the center for this capacity building and training, to then be able to trickle this information down to students, can approaches be tweaked? Can approaches be changed so that it then becomes an easier trickle-down effect?
Absolutely, because what we need, there is training and there is passing the information. And I tend to agree with the city here that the moment you have the conception in your mind that it is difficult, it is impossible, it will not be possible. But the moment that we like now, I don't know whether Dr. Jengere himself is a mathematics teacher by training. I presume he is a linguistic. He's my friend. But that should not inform us where we should go. Because what we need is, we need the knowledge. In fact, if you ask Dr. Jengere today, he's my friend, he'll tell you even the current assessment of KCSE, the current one they are doing, because it will be eradicated in the next 2 to 3 years. We shall be having the last KCSE in 2027. After 2028, we shall not be having KCSE again. It will be the end of KCSE. Today, they only train, they told me, they test on literacy and numericals. That is literacy. Numericals, they go for mathematics, because those are numericals. Literacy, they go for 3 subjects. They go for English, Kiswahili or Kenya Sign Language. They select either one of them, the one that you have performed the best, plus now other 5, and now they get to your aggregate mini grade. Why do they do that? Because they know without literacy and without numericals, it doesn't matter what you are doing. You'll get stuck somewhere. And that is why they give, because mathematics cannot be optioned or stroked with anything else. It has to be there. Then for languages, they stroke, and even today you go to Kenya School of Law, you want to pursue advocates training program diploma. The first thing they look for is what was your performance in either English or Kiswahili. They don't specifically say English or Kiswahili mandatory. They stroke each other because that is literacy. And that is why I'm saying, if we can be able to embed literacy, why are we not saying that English or Kiswahili, they are also optional in the rest of pathways? Okay? Because they are there. You'll be learning English, you'll be learning either Kiswahili or Kenya Sign Language in the rest of pathways. Why don't we also make sure that maths is also there in the rest of pathways? Because maths cannot be stroked with anything else. And that is why I'm saying this is a working document, and I believe from the stakeholders' input, and I'm happy for the input that was going on last week all over the country. The input that came from almost every and single stakeholder was that let us make maths compulsory. But now let's redesign the curriculum so that it doesn't encompass everything, particularly for those students who are doing social sciences and arts and sports. But those who are doing STEM, they can now get deeper into it. But making it optional, I don't think it's an option.
But Wairimu, surely even before the CBE was brought into place, what you're discussing has always been there. From 1 and 2, you studied certain subjects. Then you left some, and you actually chose a pathway when you went from 3 and 4.
Absolutely.
Yes. So, I mean, this is Hackneyed. I mean,
it's the same thing that you even do. It is Hackneyed. It's the same thing that you do at the university level, isn't it? That usually in your first year,
you're using strong words.
Even in your first year at the university, there are basic courses that you will do. You will then start to branch out in your second and core subjects in your second and third year. But that there were basics that you had to do to ensure that foundation.
The foundation is strong.
Is set. Are we moving away from that?
The argument is that these subjects have been learned in junior secondary. And that is why in junior secondary, the mathematics...
So they're saying that the basic... Sorry, I just wanted to clarify that, because I do see that there are quite some comments that are coming up here and saying that, if you got the basic fundamentals in junior secondary, which is 7, 8 and 9, then you actually don't need to pick them up again in 10, 11 and 12.
But look at
is that the case?
Look at the capacity of that child in grade up to junior secondary, up to grade 9. That's still a toddler. Okay? And that is why we want this child who is moving to grade... What is basic education? It's all the way up to grade 12. Okay? Currently up to Form 4. That is the basic education. So we want by the time you are clearing with your basic education, you are swimming with that maths, which is compulsory. You are swimming with that linguistic literacy, which is compulsory. And then after that, when you go to higher education is now when you join tertiary institutions. Then now you can have a choice. But when we drop it at junior secondary, we have not yet cleared with the basic education. Basic education, Madam Du, ends at grade 12. It doesn't end at grade 9. And that is why we are insisting up to grade 12. Let's make it compulsory. But now for senior secondary, let's make it a little bit flexible so that even the units and the topics you are learning, if you are choosing a different pathway, they are not as much entailed as that student who is learning the STEM subject, which is science and mathematics.
Okay, so our time is running out. You've talked about there being a lot of public participation in the last couple of days, and that this is still a working document. Where do you see this going in the next couple? I mean, it's going to be decided. We have this election coming up in a month.
Yes.
So what does it look like, really quickly?
Selection can be done, not necessarily even a month. It can be postponed. We still have time. We are in the month of March. I see we have a listening government. Actually, when one thing I love about the Kenya Kwanza government, and that one was it, immediately they came. Like when CBC was introduced, there was no public participation. And something I like is that when President Ruto took over power through Kenya Kwanza government, the first thing that was done was to make sure there was public participation through Presidential Working Party on Education Reforms. That was a very good input, because parents had an opportunity to give their input. Because students would have gone to junior secondary in far-flung schools and areas whereby you lose touch and contact their child. Finally, on this one, because there have been public participation and we have given our input as stakeholders and also as parents, because I'm a stakeholder, I'm also a parent. It is my belief, and I would pray the government, please listen to this, because it is coming from serious stakeholders in this country. Serious parents of this country. Listen to it. Let's incorporate. There is still time. We can adjust and still get it right, other than getting it just for the sake of finishing the line without getting it right. Things don't go wrong. Things start wrong.
There you go. And that's a great point to end on. Thank you so much for being here with us this morning. Ndungu Wangenye has been here this morning. He's the National Secretary, Kenya Teachers in Hardship and Arid Areas Welfare Association, a former CECM of Education at Nyandarua County. Thank you for joining us in that conversation. It'll be interesting to see what happens in the next coming days.
Thank you, Du. Thank you, CT, and thank you, Dennis.
Good morning. 1 minute past 8.
Spice up your life.
Good morning. This is the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga. President William Ruto will today take his tour to the Mount Kenya region. The president is expected to visit Nyandarua, Meru County as he continues to test the waters and see whether the Mount Kenya people will accept him. We are looking forward to see the number of MPs who will accompany the president during his tour in the region. He'll also be visiting Nyeri, that is. And jailed former Kiambu Governor Ferdinand Waititu has filed a fresh application to secure his release on bond pending the determination of an appeal challenging his conviction and sentence. This marks the second attempt by the imprisoned politician to regain his freedom after Justice Lucy Njuguna rejected his initial bid on March 3rd, declining to grant Waititu release on medical grounds. Justice Njuguna ruled that the appellant had failed to present sufficient legal justification of his release from prison. And the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission will decide next month whether to join the case in which Thika High Court Chief Justice Stella Atambo is challenging a warrant to search the judge's house. Judge Atambo, who has served in the judiciary for years, is facing a corruption case following allegations that many of her decisions were influenced by bribery, allegations she has denied. During Tuesday's hearings, the EACC told the court that it has a legal right to be heard in the case. Defending the statement, EACC lawyers insisted that the Commission has been entrusted with the power to conduct investigations and has been given a warrant necessary. Now, motorists have been urged to plan their journey in advance to avoid any inconvenience that might be caused by the closure of the Key Raid. This event counterage will travel to Naivasha via Mai Mahiu today. The Police Traffic Department states that all trucks will be rerouted to control traffic. In Naivasha, the King Willem, Alexander and Queen Maxima will visit the Inland Container Depot, which is a major storage facility for dry export products. Meanwhile, traffic disruptions will also be witnessed along Thika Superhighway as King of Lesotho is expected to visit factories near Clayworks, Ruiru and a school in Ruiru town. And in the international scene, Donald Trump's rumbling conflict with the judiciary burst into open confrontation as Supreme Court Justice John Roberts issued a rare public rebuke of the U.S. president over his call for the impeachment of a federal court judge. Roberts' extraordinary rebuke of the president came shortly after Trump called for the impeachment of a federal judge who ordered the suspension of deportation flights of alleged illegal migrants. The White House has been critical of federal district courts, which have blocked some of the president's executive actions, but this was the first time Trump has personally called for a judge's impeachment since he took office in January. That's the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
few minutes after 8 o'clock, a quick look at what's happening on the roads this morning, and some traffic coming in from the Thika Super Highway, heavy from that junction. Allsops is giving traffic from Outer Ring and also on the Thika Super Highway itself as you come through towards the CBD, so that is busy. Also coming in from Kiambu Road, it's busy as well, and we're looking at traffic coming in from Limuru Road, that whole Muthaiga area, very, very busy. It's also starting to look like it might get chock-a-blocked as you come in on Lower Kabete going through towards Spring Valley. Busy right around the address on Wayaki Way. And then Langata Road traffic today is really doing the thing, isn't it? We're looking at traffic then heavy as you come in towards Raila Odinga Way. It's going to spill over towards Ngong Road, and some of that's going to go the other way through towards Uhuru Highway. And coming off Mombasa Road, it is also busy this morning. All right, a quick look at traffic. Other parts of the country coming to you shortly. Let's talk SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
It is now 6 minutes after 8 o'clock, and getting into other conversations that we will have this morning. Important that we do. The discourse is important. The conversations need to be front and center. We can't ignore. We don't ignore. Now, imagine biting into your favorite foods again without the fear of pain. It's that stone cold ice cream or that super hot coffee, just the way you like it. Well, you don't have to imagine it anymore, because Sensodyne is here to give you the ultimate relief from tooth sensitivity. And how do we know this? Because it is the #1 recommended brand by dentists. And with World Oral Health Day coming up, we are reminding you that a happy mouth is a happy mind. And to get this, Sensodyne is giving you 50% off select products, and that comes in from the 20th to the 23rd of March at any of the outlets of Chandarana, Naivas, Quickmart or Carrefour, and you can get in and get your pack. Sensodyne for tooth sensitivity relief and everyday oral health. All right. We're getting into a conversation this hour, and SMEs have been front and center when it comes to building an economy and ensuring that the economy stays tip top when it comes to this kind of business. SMEs are right in the front and center, and we're having a conversation round about that this hour. And as we look into that, our guest will be seated in a few minutes, and we'll talk about that. What needs to be capacity building for the SME sector. And she's here with us this morning as the Business Banking Director for Absa Bank Kenya PLC. Elizabeth Wasuna Ochwa is in the hot seat this morning. Elizabeth, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Very good.
Yes.
Well, we're glad that you're in the hot seat this morning. Thank you for coming to the Situation Room. A number of issues that we're going to look through today and how they can actually be resolved. But you know what? CT. I'm going to tell you a secret. CT travels a lot, and every week he's in a different African country. You may have heard, and I'm here to tell you that it's actually true. And he comes back with a basket full of proverbs from a different country, and he is going to share one of those proverbs with you and tell you where that proverb is from. And then here's the juicy part. You get to interpret that proverb for us and tell us what it means to you. Good stuff, isn't it?
Good stuff.
Fantastic. See? CT, go.
Hi, Elizabeth.
Hi.
Nice to see you.
See you too. It's been a long time coming.
It has been quite a while.
Yes,
it is
has.
lovely to see you.
So I hope you'll give me an easy one.
Nothing of that, nothing of that sort. Our proverbs for this week come from the Republic of the Sudan. Interesting country, this. It is located at the confluence of the Blue and the White Nile. Now, when you talk of the Nile, one thinks of a river, and one thinks of these rivulets and streams that we have that we call rivers. These rivers, you need to see the Nile in its glory, and to get a glimpse of it, you need to see the Congo River. These are huge water bodies. And that is the reason why, when the Nile traverses its way right up to Egypt, it is so critical to the livelihood of those people. Critical, absolutely critical. Anyway, this country called Sudan has had problems. Since 17th November 1958, it has had coups, 7 in total. That's why it's part of the Ku Belt.
Ku Belt.
Yes, we will be looking at one more country next week, part of the Ku Belt. This time we'll go to the Sahel. They also have countries that have had more coups than they can count. The proverb. O digger of a pit of wickedness, widen your lying place in it. Now let me repeat this and put the right punctuations so that the meaning is not lost. O digger of a pit of wickedness, widen your lying place in it. Elizabeth, now what you need to do.
And the digger is.
What do you think this proverb means?
I think from an SME perspective.
Yes.
SMEs have a lot of struggles, and so that speaks to the pit. And therefore, it's important that the SMEs widen their knowledge base to enable them get out of the pit.
Because if you don't, you're going to be in the pit.
You'll be in the pit for a very long time.
Oh my goodness. I love it. Wow.
You know, you've actually made this proverb. It's as though the proverb was meant for SMEs.
I was like, a proverb from SMEs today.
Yeah. It actually comes from Sudan.
Okay, so that's great. And coming into, the subject that we talk about today, when we talk about capacity building, and every time we hear capacity building, it just sounds like, buzzword that people sitting around a conference table with their water and your notebook are going to be talking about. It sounds like, one of those. However, when we talk about SMEs, essentially, we talk about corporations, we talk about organizations that have built entire economies upon which economies rely on, and this is private sector business. So when we're talking about capacity building in the SME sector, it's broad, at the same time it's detailed. So can we just do an overview for the very beginning, Elizabeth, and say, when we talk about capacity building for the SME sector, what are we saying?
Yeah, I think that's a very good place to start, and because when we talk about learning today, and to your point, we've been bombarding SMEs with a lot. We take them to class, we get the online with them, and there's just a lot of learning from that perspective. But the truth is, if you look at SMEs, for any business to thrive, you have to have the right base. If I look historically at how a lot of our SMEs start, it starts from a Me Too situation. When you see somebody opening a shop and they're selling, electricals, you say Me Too. You see salons, Me Too. But the truth is, do you have the base of being able to run a business in a challenging environment as we find ourselves, in an environment where there are lots of things that are thrown into your direction? Do you have the base? And a lot of the time, a lot of SMEs then end up, running their businesses because somebody has told you, you've seen your friend walking the journey. But the truth is, the base of running a sustainable business over a lifetime and beyond you don't have. You don't have. So, when I was interacting with SMEs along the way, when you ask them, for instance, do you take a holiday? Simple things like that. No. There's no time for holiday. What does your HR base look like? Who runs your HR? It's me. What do you know about HR? Nothing. Who do you hire? My relatives. Do they have the knowledge? No, I'll take them to school. I mean, there are all these little mistakes that speak to not having the correct base to run a business. And then coupled on with that, and this is something I always share with people, is that you name the business after yourself. For instance, I would name my business Elizabeth and Daughters. And there you are.
Beth's Girls.
Beth Girls. Sounds good.
You could hire me to be your
PLC,
guy. You see? Yeah.
But the truth is, you yes.
Or call it Ndoko.
There you go. As you name your business, with your name, wouldn't you expect your business to go beyond you? But a lot of these businesses, and we've seen the statistics that say SMEs business, if they go past 7 years, that's amazing. Amazing. Most of them, first year, second year, struggles down. So I say this because it's important to then say, how do we set the base for SMEs to learn and relearn the right things?
That's interesting, that number that you've given. If you say if an SME, and are these Kenyan numbers that we are looking at, if an SME lives beyond, if it goes beyond 7 years, that's amazing.
This is a Kenyan story, and 7 years is being generous, huh?
And if we put this against some SMEs, that some of the things that we use today, you know, we look at them and we think that they are government-funded organizations, but they are SMEs.
Yes,
some of the machines that we use every day, the mobile phones that we use, things like that, started in somebody's garage.
Absolutely.
Years ago, but those are actually SMEs, and they've lived for 50 years.
Absolutely.
So what's the difference? Why 7 versus 50?
SMEs that get the right structure, the right support, thrive. And that's the basis of our conversation at the bank. You have to support SMEs, not just by a one-off. It has to be intentional. It has to be structured. It has to speak to the challenges that they have. And the challenges are many. You know, challenges that we know, some of them we don't know. For instance, COVID, we didn't know. But guess what? SMEs that were supported with the right structure have thrived. They've gone over the problems. Even corporates today. No corporate today says that they haven't gone through challenges. But the difference is they have the support. They have partnerships. They have people who understand the issues that they're going through and therefore extend them grace. This is something that SMEs don't necessarily have across space.
But let me ask the question, because this is something that has always puzzled me. How does a business entity qualify to be an SME?
Look, any business that starts, the minute you start, you're an SME. You're small enterprise, and that's it.
Oh, come on. I'm baking cookies out of my oven. I'm an SME?
Yes. You're a micro SME, but you're an SME all the same. Yeah. And the thing is, the minute you start formalizing it into a formalized registered business, you know, then you're saying, I want to be here longer. So it's not a hobby anymore. You know, when you talk about sometimes, you know, baking, it could be a hobby, right? But when you want to go into something that transcends beyond just a hobby, then you formalize it and you become an SME structured, recognized by government or recognized by the entity, wherever you are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, when you talk about SMEs, and there's something that you mentioned in terms of the structures that are needed in place, and you find a lot of SMEs, it's always, it's my business, I'm going to run it, I'm going to bring my friends to run this biashara. You don't play by the rules, I fire you. But here you bring the entire spectrum of who is your HR, who's handling your accounts, who is helping you market your business. And this goes into, an SME would think, this is a cost that I'm not ready to incur at the moment, yet you say it is the very foundation that will make a business go beyond the 7 years and even into the future. So how would an SME handle that aspect?
Yeah, that's a good question. And the truth of the matter is, when you start a business, it's not because you're going to hide your head in the sand. You need to know how your business will thrive. You know, the issues around, you know, skiving or, you know, running away from the, you know, the regulators or, you know, the taxpayers, it's not a sustainable business. It's not a sustainable action. So I would encourage, you know, SMEs, whoever's starting business, to tap into knowledge around how to run a business properly. Now, the question is whether you want to run it properly or not, but at least you have the knowledge. And the knowledge is available in so many ways. And I think this is where organizations such as ours, banks, we are opening up our doors today more than ever to train. To train SMEs, have conversations with them. I say have conversations is because a lot of the times we come in with the view that we want to tell you. But I think it's also important for us to learn from you. Tell us what you're going through. Then we can walk the journey together. And then we can have a conversation around what are your problems? What are you going through today? How can I help you? How can I extend the influence I have in your area? So there's a lot that we do in terms of walking the journey. And the key pillars, for instance, in our ABSA proposition for SMEs is pack the financing part, because that is something that we do because it's our business. But over and above that, there's a non-financial part that we have to take care of. So access to mentoring and coaching is important. Access to markets that we have is important. Access to information, access to networking. These are things that SMEs need to thrive, and indeed any business. But from an SME area, it's important to reach them at where they are, and then learn and walk the journey with them with the information that we have.
How did ABSA arrive at this proposition?
Wow. Look,
Okay, let me get back on what I'm asking. Because this is mind-boggling new. Banks, by their very existence, in my experience, never thought in this way.
True.
They told you what to do and how it is they well, they didn't actually tell you. You figured out how banks function somewhere along the way. So when you are telling me that Absa Bank has taken the initiative to listen, to ask questions, to talk to their clients, this is new. I'm interested. What happened? How did you people have this road to Damascus experience?
You know, it's actually a no-brainer. Let's start from there, because when you look at the statistics, it tells you that 80% of businesses opening up in Kenya today are SMEs. They then go and hire a lot of workforce, youth, right? So we sat down as a team, as leadership in the bank. This is over 5 years ago. And asked ourselves, as we transition from Barclays Bank brand into Absa, what can we do different? And this is one of those areas that we found there's a lot of potential, yet limited resources and limited focus. And then we went into statistics and data and asked ourselves, if we wanted to grow from a banking perspective, where do we need to support? And at that time, stars were aligned as well, because government is speaking the same story. They want to be able to support businesses. And there are lots of NGOs, DFIs who are willing to come in. But then we asked ourselves, what are we then intentionally doing around SMEs? So we got some of our partners into a room and said, let's look around and see where do we start and how do we show up. But most importantly, who are we targeting and how do we target them and how do we reach them in an impactful and sustainable manner? So a lot of conversations were taking place. And at that time, I then joined the bank. And I remember with our MD, Jeremy Awori, he says, listen, this is an area we want to focus on because we see the opportunities. And the team sat down and said, we need to be here intentionally. So with that, we got in our advisors and said, we want an SME proposition, but these are the key things that we want to be able to deal. So, yes, we can do the financial space, but I think there's a space for non-financial. Let's structure it. And that speaks to the 4 pillars we then created or used to support our proposition. We've talked about access to markets, access to mentoring and coaching, and access to networking. These are the things SMEs asked for.
Yeah.
And we said we must then show up. It's one thing to give money, and we've seen that, and you've seen the pitfalls. But then there's another way that you can be able to say, in the event of challenges, where do these guys go to? They need to know that they have partners who can support them. The partners who gave them money should be able to support them also, in able to access these things. So hence our proposition of Absa SMEs.
So how do folks in the SME space then access these opportunities? Where are they going? Are they sitting in a conference hall somewhere? Where are they going? Are they coming to the branch? How are they clicking into these spaces that could essentially help them?
We've tried to use a blend of the two. We've said, yes, we call them into conferences when we think it's important. And any conference and any meeting that we've called in intentionally across our 85 branches, incidentally, is one that speaks to come and listen to what others are speaking about and let's have a conversation. There are others where we've said, let's look for partners who know where SMEs are. So we have partners like Kenyan National Chamber of Commerce. We've walked the journey with them in being able to access SMEs across Kenya. We've used partners, for instance, in areas where, KEPSA, Kenya Association of Manufacturers as well. We've used partnerships around those. We've looked for partnerships also for women because we're also big on women conversations, and I'm sure we'll speak a little bit about that later. But it speaks to who knows where these SMEs are and who can we partner with to ensure that we can reach them.
Right.
Government too. We've walked the journey with government to be able to access the SMEs. And so, yes, there's a place for smaller groups. And yes, there's a place for bigger groups where we think it's important.
Okay. So what do they learn? this is because I can say this is my problem, but what am I actually learning that will then make it possible? I'm going to just go back to the cookies in my kitchen, and then I go on to start to register a business. What am I actually learning, as opposed to me saying, well, my problem is now I have so many orders and I don't have enough capital to fill them. That's one issue. But then how do I learn to take me from this 7 years problem and move me to the 50 years?
And that's an interesting thing, area. When you say learning, SMEs come in different shape sizes. So we usually call, have a call in terms of who are in this particular line of business. So for instance, if you're manufacturing, what kind of conversations can we have with you? We even send surveys out and say, what would you like to learn out of these? As we're structuring the program, as we're looking for partners to be able to structure programs, we ask SMEs, what would you like to learn? What are the topical issues? So for instance, if you think tax is an issue, let's bring tax to the table, and let's bring KRA to the table and have this conversation. But then asking KRA or the bank, these are the typical issues that customers or SMEs would like to hear about, and let's talk about it. Let's demystify it. Let's make sure that they understand it to the language even that they understand. So there are many ways that we can do. We can also pick up from our conversations with corporates, telling us, this is the ecosystem I have, and these are the struggles I have with SMEs. Could you talk to them about it? So corporates also have a space in being able to say, this ecosystem of mine, speak to them about A, B, C, D, because this is the things I see we see are the issues. So it could come from the SMEs, it could come from their partners, it could come from the bank, because we also do see a lot of issues based on how we analyze businesses. If you look at the last 10 years, what are the typical things that we've seen struggles, SMEs have struggled with? What can we do to support them? So for instance, during COVID, we then knew that we had to have a conversation around leadership in crisis. We had a conversation online around taking your business online, because SMEs were not online. And yet COVID taught us, if anything, they taught us we need to be online to be able to survive. We talked about mental illness. This was something that we could see, taking place. So it's a variety of things that we teach SMEs. And it's not just to speak to the financial base, which is key, and about cash flows and your backup plans and the structures thereof. But we also do speak a lot about the non-financial pieces that we do see influencing businesses or creating problems and challenges.
And one would want to demystify the presence of banks, because for an SME, there is that thought that I need funds to help me grow my business. I go to the bank, but this conversation of sitting down, like City says, has never been there. So in terms of just the bank now, apps are breaking it down for people to know, because that information is not out there for everybody to access it. How do you ensure that as Aseto and Sons, I know where to go for that information?
It's good.
It's more Aseto and cousins.
Aseto, I hope you have daughters too, because I'm not sure they'll be happy with that one. But so what we've done different for this particular bank is we've trained the staff on the ground first and foremost, because we had to change the perception, not just from the outside, but from the inside as well. We've taken a lot of our front-facing staff through training. The back too. I mean, it's just been a whole transformational journey around, do we understand what SMEs look like? Are we prepared for them? I remember one of our customers giving us feedback and saying, guess what, when you have branches that have white marble floors, we fear getting into them, because you know what, we are farmers and we're SMEs. We want to walk in.
I sell cabbage.
And I feel that I'm going to, be in your space, and I'm not accepted. I'm not the right person to be here. So we've had to change a lot of things, look and feel, and then said, no, we're not just inviting them to the bank. Can we go out and walk with them, So do we have a whole lot of staff members who walk around, to be with them? And we're not always, in suits and all tied up. We dress down in T-shirts. You know, we share our T-shirts as well. So can we look alike, for instance? You know,
Share T-shirts.
T-shirts. We give out T-shirts, so we look alike.
What City is not telling me is he wants a T-shirt.
There you go.
I think that's very interesting because so a couple of days ago I was on this other side of I think the Gikomba area, and it's heavy the kind of the businesses that people are doing, whether they're talking about selling clothes or they're talking about selling food. We have women who are selling, and are going to come into that conversation later, women who are selling fish, who, when they get out of their boots and whatever, you wouldn't believe it was the same woman who is doing this. But the amount of business that's turning over and rolling over, and for folks who are, you know, kind of hobbling along with this business and are doing so well, I want to imagine now when they have a little bit more in terms of information and capacity, then I think many more businesses would be crossing that 7-year mark that we talk about, whereby you then are moving from just a mini business or a medium-sized business to a full-grown entity that can actually be counted on. So that issue of saying, well, I'm not going to walk into the glass door because will I get the help that I need? That's being broken.
That is being broken. It then speaks to the fact that you can come into the bank and say, listen, I have my group of 10 business people. I want to have a conversation. Can we have a conversation?
Yeah.
And yes, we do have, a banker, an SME banker, a relationship manager who will have those conversations with you. Now, the question is, do we have all the knowledge? Perhaps not. If it's something that is very, important to them and we don't have it, we find partners to go into the conversation with, so that we can have a wholesome conversation. But I say this because in the bank also we have a business club. And in that business club, we encourage businesses to join because, yes, there will be a little more of a fee, because we need to activate and make sure it's sustainable. But the truth is, in that business club, we have a wholesome conversation. We have conversations around, the issues you're having with taxes, how to grow your business to the next level. You want to access markets. We are today taking our customers across the world. This year alone, we've been to new areas like Estonia and Finland, where customers learned a lot. Right now, I have a group of customers who are in the US, also being exposed to the different things, different areas they want to be exposed to, including leadership. Because they are attending, some of the John Maxwell conversations. We've enabled that. Yeah. And, we continue that journey because with SMEs, it's not just about teaching. It's also about walking the journey and making sure that they understand, what the industry they're in looks like in the next level and the next level. And they also know they have partners they can reach out to. The truth is, a lot of the countries in Asia, they haven't done this because the SMEs haven't grown because they have sat and copied, from the environment they're in. Yeah. They've walked the journey of taking them across the world.
And say, if
you think done? America is the best in this area, if you think Estonia and Finland are good in this area, go benchmark, see, stand next to them. They're people like us, 2 eyes, 1 nose, 2 ears, But what have they done different? And by seeing, we found that a lot of SMEs are getting to learn. Last year, we took them to South Africa. We looked at the real estate sector. We looked at agriculture, which is a huge area that SMEs are in. But the amount of growth, the amount of sustainability in that area is still limited.
Of course.
So, yes, we do have structures, so to speak, of the business club that we have, but we do have an opportunity for customers to come in and say, can we have conversation of smaller groups? And then also the ones that we call on them to have conversations with. And hopefully we can just continue learning.
Indeed.
And learning.
We're going to continue with this conversation. It is now 27 minutes to 9 o'clock. Elizabeth Wasuna Ochwa is the Business Banking Director at Absa Bank PLC, and we're having a conversation this morning about capacity building in the SME sector, what it actually means, so then who can access what you do, what you learn. We'll come back right after this and continue with that conversation.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
If we just gloss over issues and hope that time heals, then we might find that in generations to come, we might be back at the same situation. And the whole thing is born of stolen elections.
Spice.
When it comes to the decisions you make, you must be independent. There's no way you can allow one institution to dictate to you how you're going to conduct your operations, how you're going to decide cases. It's a no.
When you weaken the institution to the point where they cannot take action, then you realize that politicians have to come up and now start dealing with the issues.
That conversation has to die. Our politicians do not like the hard stuff. We must insist on the path of doing things right, whether popular or unpopular.
Money changes hands. That is a fact. If you have political goodwill at the highest top, like in Rwanda, then corruption will be an issue of the past. If you don't have political goodwill at the top, we will pass laws, we will amend laws, we will continue passing laws and re-amending laws, and nothing will happen.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
All right, taking a look at a few minutes after 8:30 and a little bit of traffic that's coming in towards the city. It's pretty heavy coming off of Mombasa Road today, and we have just at the Next Gen Mall going out towards the Nyaya Stadium roundabout, very heavy traffic. Langata Road has been busy from 7 o'clock and still continues even till now. It's going towards Raila Odinga Way in one direction and then out towards Uhuru Highway on the other. There's a little bit of traffic also coming off the Thika Super Highway, and also looking at traffic that comes off Limuru Road, and then that's going to continue with some coming through towards Muthaiga. So it's busy this morning. We're still in traffic hour. Let's see what happens as we come out of it. Help us keep things moving this morning, and let's talk on SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room. Elizabeth Wasuna Ochwa is here with us this morning, and we're talking about capacity building for the SME sector. And then just looking at some numbers, and a lot of people are actually running their kitchen backyard business, labeled as an SME. So does capacity building from ABSA, for example, also come in where we say, okay, you can do more? And as you see that there is more appetite for the business that you're running, whether it's you sold a spare part here and you realize, okay, I can open up a little shop, or whether it is, again, baking cookies, I can open up a little bit of a bakery. Does the support also come into like helping with registering your business, learning what you need to do for simple financial accounting and things like that?
Yes, it does. And the truth is, we don't only start there. We've actually taken a step back as a bank to say, can we reach out to potential SMEs even as they finish school, colleges? So we have a program called Ready to Work. And that goes into universities, colleges, and has conversations around when you're going into business, what does it look like? From a very, beginning, what does it look like from that spot? What do you need to be prepared? What kind of resilience, what kind of grit, what kind of, challenges have we seen that it prepares you? So we start from the very beginning, even as you're birthing the ideas that you have. And then when you get into now saying, to your point, I want to start a business, then we start having, conversations to the next level. Now, we don't do this alone. We find entities that are already in that business, because our business is a financing business. Partners help us, with the trainings. So we have trainings that we have jointly gotten, for instance, with Strathmore Business School. And those programs are then organized to ensure that we can take care of SMEs, different aspects of it. So your cash flows, how do you start your business? How do you take it to the next level? And so on and so forth. We have other partners from an international perspective. We have ITC She Trades, for instance, that takes care of taking customers abroad, taking customers to other markets, because there are different challenges with those sort of customers. But in all this, with the different partners, different, target groups, we have different programs that support those conversations. So the question is, how do you log into those conversations? How do you consistently gain information? So I always encourage SMEs, it's not just one training that will take you from zero to hero. You will need to plug in and, consistently learn, and more so get to unlearn the bad behaviors that you've embraced over time. So encouraging SMEs really to consistently learn. I mean, even today, as I said, I'm also learning. So, the more you know, the better it is to be able to manage that, and ABSA is able to support in those conversations.
There's this matter of, the matter I speak of became perhaps more noticeable immediately after COVID and during COVID, defaults in terms of what people borrowed and what they could not pay. When we talk about these conversations, and especially with business, people who are in business, how exactly or what strategy does ABSA have when it comes to addressing this issue? Because it is an issue.
Yeah. It is an issue, and the truth of the matter is it's an issue that we have to manage very carefully. Because when we're giving feedback on a decline, it touches on egos. It touches on the essence of somebody. When you're coming to look for a loan, or when I'm declining the loan, or I'm giving you information, it really is touching in the core. Because let me say, a lot of SMEs, and not just SMEs, a lot of businesses, when you come in, you've prayed about it, you've fasted, you've gotten other people to support you.
Sold the body parts.
I mean, it's your passion, you believe in it, and you come to the bank and you want money. And then I say, okay, this money you're asking for doesn't have the structure to support it. I can see already pitfalls, I can see problems. Have you resolved these problems? And that part of feedback is what I think banks and organizations have to get better at. Because the problems we're seeing today are as a result of not being able to give an SME the right, the risk issues that they need to take care of. And if they go through those problems, then who is going to support them? How do you have conversations? Because the truth, when you say default, there's a lot of default took place because SMEs did not feel that they had a partner who they could go back to. Yeah. And they didn't feel that they could have a conversation that was open and could tell you everything that they were going through. Normally they come and tell you this portion that they think you can be able to resolve, but the bigger portion is not resolved. I've gotten, I've fired my workers, but no, I have a problem with money that needs to buy, this.
By the time I've come to you,
yes.
See, we said we fasted, we prayed.
Yes.
Yeah. We sorted out these issues. By the time I'm coming to you, I have said I've sorted out my issues. Me and the Lord, we're on the right path.
Same what's up. Okay? Yes, same what's up.
Like this. So how am I convincing you, Elizabeth, that truly the closeted conversations that I've had with the Lord,
the prayer center,
and now, but this is my question: how do you know that I have not? Because a lot of these things are made as a result of resolve, isn't it?
Yeah.
That you have resolved to do 1, 2, 3, and to take it seriously. And we're not just dealing with brick and mortar in a lot of these cases, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like you said, you've poured your blood, sweat, guts into this thing,
and
even that you may have made, business mistakes in the past or whatever, you've resolved to do it. So how do you make the connection between Elizabeth, who's crunching the numbers? Elizabeth is looking at the numbers. You're not looking at my heart. How do you do that?
So look, this is a relationship. It's not just a hit and go. It's a relationship. When you come to borrow money, you're borrowing over a period of time. And the more we know about how you're managing your business, the more we can be able to support you. So the conversations you need to find, organizations, banks, persons in those banks that can be able to understand. What we've done differently for ABSA is we've trained a lot of the people who are on the front line to ask these questions, not from from up down. We are on the same page. We are partners. Let's even walk to your business. Let me see what you're doing. So it's a relationship that we need to build over time. And when we ask, of the different things that you're doing and the challenges that we've had, it's not because we want to beat you down. We need to understand where have you come from and where do you want to go to. And from our perspective and our, experience, we can be able to tell you this is likely to be an issue.
Okay.
So, for instance, during COVID, a lot of customers came and said, I want to buy a building, I want to buy this and that. But from understanding a COVID period it's not an opportunity for you money necessarily in brick and mortar. We didn't know how long COVID was going to be. You needed to look at your cash flows. How are you going to be able to support this customer or your staff member go back to business fully in the next year? When we started off COVID, we thought it was going to be a 3-week problem. And then we were going to snap back into... Look, COVID is affecting us until today.
Yes.
So we see things from that perspective, from a risk, issue perspective. And we need customers and SMEs just to understand that when we ask you to open out what your situation is to fully understand and to walk the journey with you, so that even if you come back and say, guess what, I built my building up to this level, now I need more. I know what you've been through, I know the pains, and I can be able to extend to you this amount only because this is what you can afford. That affordability conversation is not easy because, again, a lot of customers or SMEs want to grow fast, very fast, and it's not sustainable if you don't have the right structures.
Elizabeth, in your training of your clients,
yes,
do you train them to understand how banks work and how banks think?
It's not always easy, eh? It's not always easy.
Because we approach, we as customers, we come with our knowledge. You know, the prayer warriors we have backing up or whatever.
Yes.
And our knowledge of, faith over matter and reality and so forth. Now, when it clashes with the reality that the bank now presents you with, it would help tremendously if one had knowledge that this is how a bank thinks.
Yes.
This is what they will do. These are things they will not do. This is the conversation you have.
So that conversation can't take place adequately at the point of your need, when you need it. Because SMEs normally come and ask you the money. I'm applying today, but I need the money tomorrow. Or even I need it by the end of the day.
Yes.
That conversation can't take place there because I encourage SMEs to get involved in that conversation of understanding what banks are, what they need, what they require early.
I urge banks to take that conversation to the clients.
Absolutely.
So that they understand it early. Because, you see, where it morphs into, and why I started with the default, is because of my understanding.
Yes.
Now, again, part of it is historical.
Yes.
I grew up at a time when banks wrote you letters.
Yes.
You know what you owe. You see, it's that letter. You take a week to open it.
Yeah.
You really don't want to know what's inside.
No, she's emotional.
Yes.
By the time you open it, the 7-day notice has lapsed.
It's lapsed, yes.
So you have a new problem.
Now you're under pressure.
Yet, the letter is just to inform you there is a problem. Come. Let's have a conversation. But the letter doesn't say that. You see, it is from that perspective that I say that when people understand that whatever the problem is, you can actually go to the bank and still talk to them. It doesn't really matter how big it is. Running away and not being seen doesn't help. Just go. What is the worst that can happen? Get into that. Now, for me to say this, do you know the hoops I had to go through to actually get to the point where I actually understand this?
You know, you're spot on that because it's not in the bank's interest to sell your property.
It's not their business either.
It's not their business either.
Yes.
But the question is, when you're going through a tough time, do you switch off your phone? Because a lot of people switch off their phones.
Immediately.
Take on a new number, run away.
Immediately.
But that is the best time to come back and say, this is my situation. This is what I've committed to pay. Because the willingness to pay is there. The ability to pay is what is not there. So the question is, based on what I have, can we have a conversation that speaks to getting me out of this problem? Because we are partners. That conversation today is one that we are willing to have. Are we doing the best we can? Perhaps there's a lot more that we can do. But starting the journey in terms of having that conversation is important. A lot of customers during COVID time, for instance, benefited from us being able to give them, longer periods to repay their facility. Moratorium periods as well. What can we do different? What support do you require? Can you go for this kind of trade? We had those conversations, and a lot of them, by and large, have come out of it. Conversations sometimes speak to us telling you, look, you need to liquidate something. Because where you're going is difficult, or what we're seeing is difficult. You need to be able to pay off this, because if you don't, it's not sustainable. And it just exposes you to the challenges that you're having. And what you do thereafter is something that, depends on how the feedback was given. There's
this little subject of debt purchasing strategy.
Yes.
Do you talk to your clients about this?
Yes.
Because even if someone is in business and they were going through a hard time, it doesn't mean it's going to be a constant.
No.
Things may have changed, and they may not be able to do what they did before, but they now can do something.
Yeah. That conversation usually is a story about, yes, I come and say, can you buy off this? Can you consolidate this? But the question is, before you get there, it's not just about the willingness to repay. It's the ability to repay that we need to understand from an SME perspective. What do you have? What are your plans around your ability to repay? And that is an area where, a lot more, we can do a lot more. I believe, because, sometimes when customers come to us and say, I'm willing to pay, I can demonstrate it. I've shown you. But then I say, okay, show me what you're doing that will give me the view that over the next 3 months or 10 months or a year, you will be able to repay.
All right.
And that's where things sort of like fall apart. And we're willing to have those conversations and trainings to support SMEs.
Yeah. You've raised something to do with exposure, taking your clients outside the country. You've talked about Estonia, and Estonia we know is big on matters technology.
Yes,
now let's talk about the fact that the biggest population we have in the country right now is the young people, and the young people predominantly youth, technology, and looking at how they will sell their wares, engaged in matters technology, and also the thinking around marginalized groups or women as well in this conversation. So how are you meeting the youth where they are, which is on TikTok?
Yeah, we don't run away from TikTok. And we are present as an organization on some of these platforms. So the thing is, like I mentioned, for youth, we don't wait we actually go to the colleges. Okay. We are partnering with a lot of the universities in the country to make sure that we can start having those conversations there and then. You'll be surprised at how innovative they are from that perspective. And they then start the journey of being able to open accounts, being able to have trainings, and therefore start their businesses with the right footing and the right pillars to be able to manage. Like I said, we also do have partners. So we do partner with Chamber of Commerce because they have a bigger reach than we do. And when they have programs, we also bring in our clients in those conversations. We also take on their clients, and we do these things jointly. We also do this together with government because, we go with government around. I know last year, towards the end, we went around with Madam Harriet Chigaya from the Office of the President, and this was specifically around the women conversation. We went to Kakamega and invited 250 women, but at the end of the session, we had 600 women. We don't shy away from training.
Right.
Yes, because women don't go alone. No. We normally go with your pals as well. So the training conversations continue, and it's a conversation that doesn't stop. We hope to continue with those. The only thing is that we can't, with the magnitude of demand.
Yes.
We need partners, and we are always looking for partners who are willing to put skin in the game as well, who understand the value of training and supporting SMEs across board, because there are challenges and that we can't run away from those. So we constantly need programs that can be able to support them. It's another partner we have, Melanin Capital, who are also willing to have these conversations online. We have platforms that we can have these conversations. So all you need is, sometimes it's just your phone. You can be called into a center. We can come to you. I think it's important that SMEs know that we are there and available. Walk into any branch, reach us on social media, tell us what you need, and let's have a conversation.
And how's the conversation around you are an SME, you are running a business, and a business in any way is there to solve a certain problem. So when you're having these discussions with the SMEs, how easy is it to circumnavigate the issue of what solution are you giving to what problem?
Yeah. Again, we have those conversations with partners. Because remember, we don't have all those expertise. So we find partners that can be able to understand and help customers. And that speaks to the mentoring and coaching, because you can learn it in class, but executing is a different thing. So mentoring and coaching then allows us to have continuous conversations post the trainings to ensure that you've learned, you have been able to, to deliver on what is necessary for your business to thrive, and can have more intimate conversations. But joining a business club at the bank also helps you see other businesses that have walked your journey, and don't reinvent the wheel, don't make the same mistakes, move forward. And so I also encourage SMEs and different organizations to come to us and tell us, we think we can do this with you. We can partner with you on this. And a lot of them have been reaching out, to be honest, to allow us to do what we do today and to see the successes that we have today. So it's a partnership.
Right.
Yeah.
At the beginning of this conversation, we talked about the fact that there are entire economies that are run on the power of SMEs, that the government can set up structures and see that, the environment is conducive. But at the end of the day, the folks who are really pushing this economy for them to be able to stand up in the world and be counted are SMEs. So if you look at here where we are we in the blocks to be able to get to the place whereby Kenya's economy really can be pushed?
I would say in different levels of success. and there's some areas that we could do a lot better. I think our challenge is in the last couple of years we've bombarded SMEs with a lot of training, and it's not a sustainable platform. We don't have a sustainable structure. So I encourage a lot of our partners to say, when we're in this journey, don't come and hit and run. It's something we have to be intentional, and we have to put in money, and we have to be able to put in even resources and structure to ensure that as you engage with SMEs. So for instance, SMEs in agriculture, if you came in and today and trained them on how to use a certain machinery, it's not enough. You've got to be able to talk to them about, what about insurance? What about soil? What about, what are the things, the challenges? So it's got to be a structure that speaks to where you are and walking the journey over the next year, 2 years, 3 years. And finding such partners isn't easy today because, partners come forward with different aims. But I would encourage them to really invest in SMEs because we do have a potential to change this country in a lot of ways. Moving SMEs from being able to borrow 1,000 shillings off a platform to being able to borrow 100,000 with a structure that allows them to grow is a better conversation to have.
There's this little aspect of education with regards to financial matters and banking. Before you get to the point where you can borrow money, you need to grow up and become an adult and probably earn some money. Children, the understanding of banking, school children, university. Because if our relationship with banking begins early, we're able to manage this process better when we're older.
True.
But most of us begin this journey when you're employed. When you already have fixed ideas of what money should do and how you should manage your money.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes. So how are we doing that? Ready to Work program is already in place. We go into universities, we have these conversations. It is true that we're managing our money the way our parents and our grandparents probably did. If your father was burnt at some point, a loan went bad, the chances are you'll be told, do not borrow. Under any circumstance, do not borrow. But guess what? A lot of these organizations, the big corporates, there is no way they would be where they are if they didn't borrow. It's how to borrow responsibly. Know what are the parameters. Know what is, what you cannot do, what you should not do with that money. Yeah? And those things we're trying the best we can to teach as early as university and also in schools because, we get called in to have conversations around savings.
Yeah.
And, Kenyans were not very good in savings, let's be honest. That is another area that we need to start with. As an SME, what have you saved? What are you putting? What's your skin in the game as far as your savings is concerned? Have you invested, or are you just borrowing off a platform? Sometimes the interest rates are very high, and it's not sustainable. That shouldn't be the place you should borrow from.
Sometimes,
the first place, yeah.
Always.
That's a separate conversation. But there's a time and a place for everything. It's just a question is, do you know? Yeah. And the more you know, the more we teach you, the more we engage, perhaps the better. Yeah.
You have book clubs, you have agricultural clubs, you have 4K clubs, banking clubs in schools. Because if it's something that you interact with on a daily basis, it starts you on that journey well. And the discussion of savings becomes a much easier conversation when you've already interacted with that particular process.
Yeah, you don't have fear.
No, you
the
do
fear
not.
is not there.
You look at it very, very differently.
It's true.
I mean,
it's true.
I think even back in the days, piggy banking, it is you guys who came up with that. I don't know where it went to, but perhaps,
it's still there. We still have.
The pig grew up.
The pig grew up. Yes, but it's a whole conversation, and I think it's to speak to reaching out to any of our branches, to the branch managers, the business bankers. We're all ready to have those conversations with children, with adults, young adults, to ensure that we are preparing ourselves for the SME conversation and into the corporate conversation, because I believe SMEs can grow into being corporates. And then it's not just a Kenya conversation. We have a conversation across the region because we do tend to be ahead of the game. We can share. We always say sharing is caring. And make sure that in that conversation also we're supporting women, youth, people with disabilities. We have conversations for the women that I spoke to earlier, and which is we're big on. And just be saying that we have a business proposition. We call it SHE program. And SHE stands for See Her Empowered. And we've had different apart from just the SME conversation, we've tried to make sure that women also can have conversations in areas that they think they need support, areas we think they need support, in the 4 pillars that we've spoken to.
Yeah.
But making sure that we tweaked it and made sure that it's aligned to what women require.
I mean, this is refreshing to just understand that, look, there's a place that we can aspire to be, and beyond just aspiring, the things that we can do in the interim to ensure that we do get there. I mean, and the work that Absa is doing to make sure that, businesses and in that ecosystem are then being fueled is amazing, and good for us to continue to have these conversations. So thank you for being here with us this morning. Elizabeth Wasuna Ochwa is the Business Banking Director at Absa Bank and has been here discussing, buffering, boosting the SME sector. Thank you very much for coming, and we hope to have more conversations around this soon.
Thank you.
Good morning. It's 9 a.m.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga. A Kenyan police officer in the outgoing multinational security support mission in Haiti was on Tuesday shot and injured during an operation in Port-au-Prince. Officials said the police officer was injured while conducting a security operation in Kenskoff within the Bellot area. The officer was promptly evacuated to Aspen Level 2 Hospital, where he is receiving medical attention and is in a stable condition. The mission spokesman Jack Ombaka has confirmed he's the second police officer to be shot and injured in the mission so far. This came a day before Constable Samuel Kaiteuai, who was shot and killed on February 23rd in the same area, is set to be buried in his rural home in Kajiado. Kaiteuai will be buried today at his rural home at an event to be attended by top police officers and politicians. Nearly 5 months after the ouster of former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, President William Ruto is returning to Mount Kenya region in a visit that is expected to begin today. The visit, which is seen as a bait to start rebuilding his political relationship with Mount Kenya residents since the ouster of Gachagua, will start in Nyandarua County. The president's Mount Kenya visit will also reveal political tensions between him and Gachagua, who has been claiming that the residents of the region no longer love him due to his removal from office. Ruto will also visit Nyeri and Meru counties. New Meru Governor Isaac Mutuma has held his first cabinet meeting made of members appointed by his predecessor Kawira Mwangaza. In the cabinet meeting, Governor Mutuma assured the CECMs and chief officers that their exit and transition will be smooth without any harassment. Governor Mutuma said he was extensively motivated them. He has extensively motivated them to ensure smooth transition when he names his new cabinet soon. A motion for removal of the CECMs was tabled on grounds of gross misconduct, abuse of office, and incompetence. Other accusations include failure to attend county assembly sessions and addressing critical issues within their ministries, raising concerns and questions among residents about the county's performance. Women leaders and human rights activists in Trans Nzoia County have called on the government to set aside a special fund to combat sexual violence. The activists say many cases go unreported and are poorly addressed due to lack of awareness on how to deal with such matters.
Ni vyema tuwe na bajeti ambayo inaangalia dhulma ya jinsia, na hii bajeti iangalie masuala ya uhamasishaji kwa wananchi waelewe athari za dhulma za kijinsia. Pili, wale ambao wameathirika ni vyema sasa waanze kupewa ile safety net. Tatu, tunahitaji wahuduma ambao wanaitwa counselors katika kila gatuzi, manake masuala ya dhulma za kijinsia ndani ya boma zimezidi. Inahitaji marriage counselors ambao wanalipwa na serikali ili waongeleshe wanandoa. Pia tunahitaji bajeti katika vitengo za polisi, na mwisho waangalie sheria ya femicide. Hatuna sheria ya femicide.
County Commissioner Gideon Oyangi, on his part, has directed officials from various departments to collaborate in this effort, stressing that President William Ruto has already shown commitment to ensuring that perpetrators of sexual violence are dealt with.
As the task force continues to correct views on the status of gender-based violence and femicide in the county, I want to prevail upon the people of Trans Nzoia to freely give their views, give their suggestions and their recommendations on how best we can reverse the trend that is we are currently experiencing. We have witnessed cases of gender-based violence. We have witnessed femicide cases. I want to agree that for us to be able to adequately handle these cases, we require adequate funding, we require coordinated approach, given that we have various sectors, various partners who are handling GBV, but in a very disjointed and uncoordinated manner.
And that's the news wire. I'm Leo Obaga.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
In this country, 6 families and 8,000 Kenyans control 90% of the GDP. We are not a country. We are a plantation. We work for Ruto.
When you're telling the judges court orders are papers or they will not obey court orders, they're sitting and you're seeking orders from them. So how are they supposed to interpret it? Isn't it an oxymoron?
When you see a judiciary that seems to be under some control somewhere, you start questioning. We have very powerful governors, but they don't use their offices to serve the people.
If you are not shameful to do what you are doing, why should we protect you?
I'm human. Everybody's human. So when you're told, kuja tuongee, I mean, you'd be a fool to say, stagi kuongea. Conversations have to be had, you know?
People in leadership should only go into leadership if they are ready and willing to change the lot of the people.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
At 6 minutes after 9 o'clock, let's take a look at what's happening with traffic this morning. Still pretty busy if you want to look at it, coming off the Thika Superhighway. And now the rain is coming down in several parts. And so that's going to slow things down. This we know. It's been busy on Langata Road all morning, crossing over Uhuru Gardens and then getting out all the way past the Nyayo Stadium roundabout through towards Uhuru Highway. That is busy. We also have some traffic that's coming off of Ombaso Road as you then head towards the Nyayo Stadium roundabout. Very, very busy here as well. And then there's traffic coming off Wairimu on that side, coming in through towards Limuru Road, Lower Kabete towards Spring Valley, still doing the thing. And so I think we're going to have a little bit more traffic this morning with the rains that are coming down. Let's keep an eye on all of this as we try to keep things moving. We'll talk SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
All right, it's 7 minutes after 9 o'clock and into the final hour of today's conversation. Kenya's biggest conversation continues at this hour, going into a number of other things that we will speak about with you this morning. And this is a time that we invite you to have those conversations with us. But first of all, remember that, you know, you can imagine a situation where you thought about how you bite into your favorite food without any pain. It could be that stone cold ice cream, or it could be that super hot cup of coffee. Well, you don't have to imagine that anymore. You can actually live it. And it's like living a dream, isn't it? And how do we know that you can do this? Because Sensodyne is here to give you the ultimate relief from tooth sensitivity. It is the #1 brand recommended by dentists, and the world Oral Health Day is coming up, and we're reminding you that a happy mouth is a happy mind. And what can you do with that? You can actually find your way to a number of outlets where Sensodyne is giving you 50% off on selected products, and you can find this package at Carrefour, at Naivas, at Chandarana, or at Quickmart. And you can get this from the 20th, which is tomorrow, all the way until the 23rd. Sensodyne for tooth sensitivity and everyday oral health. All right. There have been many conversations over the last couple of, days. And one of those issues that we'll be looking at then now is freedoms and rights protected, and asking yourself, so what does it mean? Is there a place whereby rights and freedoms have to be given up for security? Is there a place where rights and freedoms have to be given up to ensure that other things take place? Do my rights end when yours begin? Or do my rights end when another begins? And that forms a part of the conversation that we will be having this morning. But since we're here, CT, want to remind us about today's proverb?
I certainly do. And the proverb is still from the Republic of the Sudan.
Still.
Oh, digger of a pit of wickedness, widen your lying place in it.
If you dig it for somebody else,
just make sure there's space for yourself.
Just make sure there's space for yourself.
As that person goes in, make arrangements for yourself to follow.
It really isn't that difficult for you to be good, kind, take others into consideration. It actually probably is easier for you to be kind than it is for you to be mean or evil or nasty. Easier.
No.
No?
No.
Okay.
Yes. No.
I understand what you're saying.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, please.
Wonderful, isn't it?
Thank you. The issue of rights comes into discussion. The king and queen of the royal... what are they called?
Dutch Kingdom.
Thanks. The Royal Netherlands are in Kenya.
Yes.
And the King, Wilhelm, made an address yesterday, and he spoke about certain things, and I want to tell you what that is. Now, it is interesting that he came and had that conversation when a number of things have been going on in the country over the last few weeks. Okay? This is what he said. King Willem-Alexander of the Netherlands yesterday urged President William Ruto to ensure rights and freedoms of Kenyans are respected, challenging him to uphold human rights, good governance, and accountability. Indeed, he said more. The Dutch royal, who arrived in the country Monday evening alongside Queen Maxima, said he would give attention to discussing the issues during his 3-day state visit. The people of Kenya, like those of the Netherlands, want their rights as free citizens to be respected and their voices to be heard. King Willem-Alexander said at State House, Nairobi, moments after a 21-gun salute rang out in his honor. Earlier, he and Ruto witnessed the signing of Memoranda of Understanding in Trade, Agriculture and Tourism, as well as a letter of intent on water infrastructure development. Ruto too challenged the Dutch king against abandoning his role on the global stage, which includes support for peace initiatives and other pressing issues. At the time of fraying partnerships, I urge their majesties to maintain the Netherlands' commitment to the principles of global solidarity and subsidiarity. In particular, I implored their majesties to extend support to the 8th replenishment of the United Nations Global Fund as it seeks to mobilize resources to battle difficult health challenges. So they talked about a number of things, and they said that, they would be interested in hearing the role of young Kenyans in recent developments, what opportunities they see for a bright future of the country. But it seems as though this issue of rights is something that anybody who visits the country is talking about and saying, you know what, your rights are those that must be secured by any government of the day. Why is it so important that everybody speaks on them and has been speaking on them in the manner in which they have been? Or are we looking at a situation where don't come back to my country and tell me what to do?
Well, some of these Western countries actually have a right to speak about this very subject. They have more of a right than we know. Because if we look at their history and the relationship with countries that they colonized, if it is one thing they abrogated were the rights of the people whom they colonized. And they did it for a very long time. So one could argue this is a subject they understand intimately. And then over time, when they began to understand exactly what the rest of the world, and the world began with their own citizenry, thought about this, and changes started coming about, and things like independence started coming about, for you to be acceptable.
Yes.
There was need for people to not just talk about this, but to be seen to talk about it and to put it into practice. Because when you had monarchies, and they had them in the world, what the monarchies did was what they wanted.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have any consideration for anything called the human rights. Remember, up until the Second World War, Europe as we know it had been at war with each other and segments of it for close to 2 millennia. That's just how cantankerous and how they sorted out the issue. So what we see now was born over a very, very, very long period of time. Okay? Now, we can argue that we've only had 60 years of independence or thereabouts, 60 years, a little bit more above 60. But that notwithstanding, the very subject of human rights, as it is understood now globally, and the freedoms that are supposed to be enshrined in any constitution, so that it is actually spelled out in clear, bold letters, underlined in green and circled in red, so you can't miss it. It is a subject that makes you give the impression that you clearly understand human rights and you clearly want to further it. But then it takes us to the subject of migrations that we've had in Europe. We're not talking about migrations that began within their own borders. We're talking about migrations from other countries. People from other countries who form minorities coming into them. Before we receive a lecture from somebody about human rights, you want to understand how do they deal with human rights when it comes to people who originally were foreigners coming into their country, and how is it then do we understand the rise of nationalism, which is a complete antithesis to this idea of tolerance of other people coming into your country. So, it is good that we are reminded. It is a wonderful thing. It is good that former colonial masters have begun understanding this, and we've seen countries actually coming out and admitting they were wrong, reparations, money is being paid. We've seen the Germans do it. We've seen
the Belgians almost do it.
Yeah, they just stopped. Yes, we've seen the British sort of like not quite, but they're also there. And we've seen the Netherlands also doing their bit in fire. We've seen all this. So, thank you for the visit. But surely, there's some corners of your house that also need cleaning. We will take what you've said clearly, because we have many corners that require cleaning. But just live by the example and let us see how you clean these corners that we haven't spoken of, and corners that perhaps a little light needs to be shone on so that they can be cleaned properly.
What rights do you think they speak of? Because it would appear to me that, you can come and give the advice, but it looks as, and we're looking at the royal visit right now as an example, but they're not the first. That just before, the most recent one was another royal visit was the king and queen. The king of Great Britain was here months ago. You had other visits from other countries, but it seems as though this is one thread that sews in through all the conversations or all the addresses from statesmen who are outside of Kenya who come and have that conversation. So what rights do they speak of? To ensure that your children are educated, those are rights that they have. To ensure that you feed your people, those are rights that they have. To ensure that you take care of your sick, or are they crossing over those borders whereby you ensure that the rights of your people are stood on so that they don't get disappeared, that they don't get killed extrajudicially, that they don't suffer at the hands of what is the opposite of press freedom, for example, that they're able to report on matters arising without the fear of being taken away or, God forbid, killed?
I mean, I'd look at it from an aspect that Kenya is part of the global community. It's part of the global community in the sense that whatever happens here will end up outside there, and everyone will be able to see it. Like let's go back to the June 25th, what happened in this country, and everybody across the world was talking about it, including the killings that happened in the country. So when they come, when say the Majesty comes and talks about these rights, they're touching on human rights violations that happen, because we also live in a country where we have the justice system that ought to play its role rightfully so. And this is also coming just at the backdrop of what we see as infringement to the media that is happening. And he's talking about the people have to be heard, and it is their right to be heard.
Can you go to the Netherlands today as a Kenyan leader and tell them what to do?
Yes, you can.
Yes, you can.
Would you be listening
Whether they will listen to you is the question.
When they talk to us, are we listening? Are we listening?
Yes,
and
yes.
If we are, What is it that removes the wax from our ears and not theirs, so that when they speak, we listen clearer?
I'm just wondering why the insistence on this particular human rights issue has come to play. Or is it because that there would be incidents that would be seen to show that the abrogation of human rights is actually taking place in Kenya and on a regular basis? That are people being disappeared so much so that the world is taking notice and say, hold on a minute, you're going against the rights? Are people turning up dead where people are saying, hold on a minute, you're going against their rights? Is the situation so dire that people have to come and remind you all the time that say, hey, because what did he say? Uphold free speech and other freedoms. So does that mean that you're at a place whereby free speech is not being upheld, and that other freedoms are actually not being upheld? That somebody have the right to report on something and say it as it is without you, finying just a little bit?
I think it's coming at a time when, remember, before the king actually made his way here, over 15,000 Kenyans told him not to come. And why was that? Because Kenyans felt as though the government of the day is infringing on their rights. Therefore, the king knew here, knowing exactly what Kenyans, the concerns that Kenyans have. And we will also not forget the fact that he has his representation here through the embassies and whatnot. And these people communicate what is happening in this country back home. So he comes here with the idea or information on what our situation is, and as a leader and part of the global community, having been asked by Kenyans not to show up, he would not have not talked about that. Yeah,
it's something that had to come up. Okay, let's look at what happens within the country. Do you think, and this is something I'm going to ask that, we look to also on our socials this morning, when we look at it, we often do the comparison, right? I come up from a different part of the continent, but then living in Kenya, and I'm going to ask the question, do you think that for the large part, that Kenyans' rights, human rights, freedom of speech, freedom of passing of information and all those things are upheld? Do you think? I'll speak from somebody coming from outside inside, and I think yes, to a large extent. They're actually doing pretty well. Because there are countries on this continent where you will open your mouth, and even before you've opened for goodness sake, you're bordering a country where a man takes a walk and he's arrested, literally. And I think he's still in jail. He's been moved from a military case to a civilian case now, whereby he takes a walk and he's arrested. There are countries on this continent where you will breathe the name of the president and you will not see the light of day for months on end, until somebody decides to present you in a court of law for them to ask.
That is if you're alive.
If you're still alive, to be presented before court. So by and large, I'm sitting here and I'm saying, and I'm telling you that human rights, to a very far extent, are actually protected in Kenya, and are actually seen to the point whereby, people don't have to worry too much. That you can have conversations like this and somebody's not going to nick you at the end of the day. To a large extent, they actually are protected. Now, does that mean that because that you shouldn't try to achieve or strive for, a better place?
No, not at all. Because whilst we appreciate the fact that we can have this conversation, that there's a feeling that human rights and freedom of speech is actually being supported, does not mean that there are no ills or other threats against that right. And why Kenyans are concerned, or even the international community is concerned, is because there are attempts in interfering with these rights. Because you speak today, dissent is seen, you are arrested, you are disappeared. And if the populace, if the world continues to be quiet, what we'll see is these threats will continue to be more, and that right that we enjoy today will start diminishing. So we can't afford to be quiet.
Who's the protector of these rights?
For a very long time, we'd say law enforcers, but no, the people are the protectors of this right.
The people themselves to say that, I protect my rights so that I keep speaking out? Or how do you ensure that nothing happens to you if you actually then are speaking out, or your, freedom of association according to the law? How do you ensure that you are protected under the rights? How do you do that?
The people have given the Constitution power, which gives them the right to do all these things and enjoy all these rights. In an event where those who are supposed to help in protecting that law and upholding that very law fail to do that, then the people take the mantle and ensure that their rights are not curtailed. I don't know, City.
These freedoms and these rights it has to be an ongoing discussion, and it has to be an aspirational subject, because there is no country on the planet that can say they've actually achieved it.
Yes.
Because there are times when the interest of the state is at complete loggerheads with the interest of the citizenry. And then with every country, there are always people who tend to be a little extreme. And the people who, by their very nature, are subversive. So you could argue that what is the government to do? How are they to handle these things? Now, if you look at the history of the Netherlands, the Netherlands doesn't feature as a big colonial power when we're having this discussion. The French do, the British do, the Americans do,
Germans,
the Spaniards, the Portuguese. Netherlands, hardly, but they were. Now, I have to ask the question, beyond just the visit and beyond what we're saying, oh, human rights, human right, and so forth.
Freedom of speech.
Blah, 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 blah,
press
blah.
freedom.
One of the things that the Netherlands has actually been criticized for is the way they've handled immigrants at their borders and the ethnic profiling that has been spoken of. But these are criticisms, okay? And there's also been complained of the disproportionate force that they use when it comes to these individuals, and the proposed policies aimed at restricting asylum applicants and services for migrants, okay? Now, is this area of migrants, but this is something that's happening in Europe.
Yeah.
Europe has acquired a thing for asylum seekers. And they forget, some of these asylum seekers are people who come from countries that they were colonial masters of at some point or the other. So if it's a problem, we could argue this is a problem they brought upon themselves. Okay? But I feel and I think that whenever we talk about rights, let's extend them beyond human rights and talk about something like environmental rights. Shell Company, Royal Dutch.
Oh, okay, we're going there.
Of course, I'm going there.
Okay.
We're talking about environment. Other countries are restricting and trying to restrict and create laws that limit the use of fossil fuels. It is written and spoken of that the Dutch government gives subsidies for the use of fossil fuels. So if you talk about rights and environmental rights, there is a discussion right there. Okay? That's why I said this issue of rights, it has to be a discussion and it has to be aspirational. Because even as you try to speak about this, there are other issues that fingers could be pointed at. It could be said, but what about this? But at the same time, before this upsurge of people leaving their countries for whatever reason, the Netherlands, one didn't hear a squeak or a problem coming out of there. People went there, stayed there, and they were considered an extremely tolerant people. Just like the Scandinavian countries were. Right now it's a different story. But for the longest time, now there are those who argued this was so because they didn't have enough people of color for them to now have a colored view of this particular situation. And now they do. And so the tolerance levels are being tested. How do they deal with people who are different from them? How do they deal with people who believe differently from them? That's why I said when you're talking about rights, it's something aspiration.
You'll get there eventually.
Yes, but it's a work in progress. So perhaps what we ought to discuss, how is this work in progress? Let's start with the countries that the Netherlands colonized. For those who do not know. Do you know how many countries they colonized?
Well, there were not that many if you're going to give a comparison between them and Great Britain, for example.
No, Great Britain take the cup.
Great Britain and followed by France.
They went at this thing ham and tongs. They were not joking about this. Okay, so tell me, which countries do you think they colonized?
Are we talking about Africa?
No, the world over.
Brazil, some parts.
South Africa.
That's very good. You're very good. Continue.
Namibia, some parts.
Ghana, Suriname, Dutch Guyana, Brazil.
Oh, you're reading?
Yes, it's important to read.
New Netherlands, USA. Hey, okay.
New Amsterdam.
New Amsterdam.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sri Lanka,
Malaysia,
Taiwan, India. Then we have other countries in the Caribbean as well. Aruba, Curacao, Boinai, Saint Martin, Sabah, Saint. Hey, yes.
You see, when you do that search, you realize there were very many countries that they influenced. Okay, so let's go further. How many have they paid reparations to?
Je ne sais pas.
So I'm asking Aseto to do the homework.
Silence.
We're waiting for you.
Continue talking.
All right, let me assist you. Suriname, okay? One of the reparations, why I bring in the subject, it is an acknowledgement when somebody acknowledges that something was done to that country and its people, something which didn't quite meet the master even of the times. And with history, they've realized they really need to set right certain things that were definitely very, very, very wrong, okay? And the wrong that we speak of often meant that when it came to understanding what they did and what they did to the human beings they found there, they couldn't stand clear in the cold glare of the light then, and even now when the light is even brighter, because we understand human rights more, there is need not just for an apology, but for you to try and make good, okay? Now, the people who had a big say in Namibia were the Germans, okay? They've apologized.
Yes, they did.
Yes. And even paid money. But it has been said it's not enough. But they made an attempt. 1.3 billion euros, not too bad. But then it was over, God knows, 25 years, a long period of time. But the effort was made. But significantly, they said sorry in clear terms. Clear terms. They did not he and haw and said, no. So the issue of, if we admit it fully, there'll be legal consequences. Of course there'll be legal consequences. What do you think?
Yeah.
What am I saying? I am saying that a visit like this brings to the fore the need for discussions to be had, an honest conversation about some of these things and what it is that it means to have partnership. Because this particular visit is said, it's to strengthen ties, okay? And to bilateral ties to improve trade, security, climate action, and youth empowerment. That's what this particular visit is touted as. So if you are to be granular and you ask, okay, let's look at trade, let's look at security, let's look at climate action. Let's look at youth empowerment. A country that is known for having reclaimed land from the sea is a country you take very seriously, because not many people have been able to do this. Okay, so what can we learn from the Dutch? Okay, and if it is bilateral, then what can they learn from us? What is it? I'm asking the questions because for the visit to make sense, one must answer in detail these issues that it is said that they came to strengthen.
All right, it's 9:30 and we were just looking at that coming from a state visit of the royals from the Netherlands and coming into asking questions around rights and making sure that those rights are actually upheld. We switch gears a little bit when we come back from this break. We'll take a look at weather and traffic. Kenya's biggest conversation continues after this.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to... The weather with SpiceFM.
All right, now rainy conditions in Nairobi this morning and currently at 18 degrees. We'll see highs of 25. Looking into a cloudy Nakuru, we'll see highs of 26 and into a cloudy rain showers at 19 in Nyeri. It's sunny at 19 in Eldoret with 30 and mostly sunny conditions in Mombasa and 30 and sunny conditions in Malindi. It's sunny at 25 into Kisumu with sunny conditions at 24 in Kakamega, 21 and cloudy in Kampala with 27 and sunny conditions in Dar es Salaam. Johannesburg at 15 is sunny with Mogadishu at 30 sunny. It's 19 and cloudy into Addis Ababa with 28 and sunny conditions in Lagos. And Kinshasa is sunny at 24 and we're looking at 21 and mostly sunny into Beijing, and it's 6 and sunny in Paris with 2 degrees and partly sunny conditions in London. It's 8 degrees and clear in New York.
Spice FM. Spice up your life.
All right, looking at what traffic is doing now that the rains are really coming down this morning, especially into Nairobi. We are looking at still some traffic coming in on Limuru Road, and that's still pretty heavy. Thika Superhighway with just now settled down around Survey, getting into the city. That's not going to be too much of an issue. Let's look over at Langata Road, which was still pretty busy earlier. And that is also coming to a head, but Mombasa Road will be busy for the most part of it, getting inbound to the city. Let's talk through the morning on SpiceFM KE on X.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Okay, it's 27 minutes to the top of the hour and getting into another conversation that we'll have this morning. Just before that, CT?
You see, one of the things that Britain, Germany, have actually addressed directly, I'm giving this just as an example, is the issue of reparations, meaning they've admitted some wrong was done. The Netherlands have actually come up with monies for development, social initiatives, things, a fund of, say, some 200 million euros to help with initiatives related to slavery and so forth. But they have avoided a direct payment of what you call reparations, okay? Which in my view means they have avoided a direct admission that certain wrongs were done.
But that's exactly what you do when you give reparation, is that you're essentially saying that we were wrong at some point.
Yes, and they haven't directly come out. There have been many initiatives in Suriname and other countries that they colonize, but coming out directly. Now, why I want to say this before we move on to the next topic is we have a lot to learn from the mistakes they made and the payments that they're having to pay directly or indirectly for wrongs. Now, as a country, that's something we need to learn.
Absolutely.
Certain wrongs will have to be paid for at some point.
True. And if you make them now, if you make those wrongs now, make them knowing that whether it is you who's going to be at the position of payment or somebody else, at the end of the day, those payments will be made.
Yes, and right now you can avoid some of those things.
Yes, you can.
So there's the option of avoiding them.
And one of those issues is a healthcare system which is botched. Okay? Yes. Now, if you are dealing with a healthcare system that is not working today, the payment will come in the future. So you must do everything that you can at the moment to make sure that it is working and it is working well. Now, it seems as though every day there is a new healthcare issue. There is a problem. Whether we are saying that you're going to not renew licenses for private hospitals, whether tomorrow you're going to say that the system is not working, whether the Auditor General is going to come out and say that the system actually belongs to individuals and that she has no paper. She has no documentation, no proof to show her that it is actually a government-owned entity. Whether it is doctors, whether it is clinical officers, whether it is nurses who are saying, you know what, if you guys didn't do what you said, if you don't do what you said you were going to do, we're actually going to shut this thing down. Clinical officers, nurses, actually, I read, we don't have enough doctors, number one, in Kenya, okay? Number two, when you go to hospital, the majority of people who see you, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, especially if you're going into the public health system. The majority of people who see you first are clinical officers. Clinical officers have already said, well, if you realize they're important, you don't sort us out, we're going to get to a place where we actually will, again, down our tools. Health workers are saying there's a strike threat, and it's not a threat. It's actually something that will become an action. As Shah warns of fake payment list, I mean, it doesn't get any better than this. Let me give you that information, okay? Just when you thought it was safe to get out of the water, CT. Health workers have threatened to go on strike if their demands for better terms are not met. During a demonstration yesterday, doctors, members of the Kenya Union of Clinical Officers, and staff hired under the Universal Health Coverage Program called for remittance of statutory deductions and payment of salary arrears. Now, statutory deductions mean that at the point of pay, money is taken. It's supposed to be put somewhere. Now they're saying they can see that those deductions have not been put in the somewhere, as well as their salary arrears have not been paid. They have also said that interns posted and the UHC staff put on permanent and pensionable terms. Do it, and do it now. In that march that has started at the Kenyatta National Hospital to the Social Health Authority offices, Afia House, and then the Senate, the health professionals warned that they would shut down the healthcare sector in May if they are not heard. And not just heard, but it must be done. According to the Secretary General of the Kenya Medical Practitioners, Pharmacists and Dentists Union, Davji Atela, we are ready to go on strike, not just for ourselves, but for interns, clinical officers, and UHC staff. This government has decided to kill both patients and doctors. So,
it's true.
Yeah, if the system is not taking care of the patients, and the system is also making sure that the doctors who are offering this care are not taken care of, what are you doing? You're killing the goose, you're killing the egg.
Yeah.
He condemned Shah's failures, stating that even basic health services remain inaccessible to many medical professionals. There is a story that we read this morning about a doctor who works in Kenya's level 6. One of Kenya's level 6 hospitals is in Kenya International Hospital. Page 7 of the Standard today. He died. Why?
300,000 shillings bill only could do 30,000.
Exactly.
Shah could only pay for 30.
Did he die?
He died.
Yes, he did. Did he die as a result of complications of his illness?
He died pretty much because he couldn't afford healthcare.
Stress became an issue for him. He is now, if the people who are offering the care are actually not even being able to be taken care of, that's a big red flag. Questions that you have to ask. SHA is only working for politicians, according to Davdia Teller. Healthcare workers cannot access it if every 9th of the month. This is unacceptable. The protesters also decried plans to slash their salaries with concerns that their pay could be reduced from 70,000 to 40,000 shillings, despite Ministry of Health budget standing at 3.7 billion. The health workers cited frustrations with contractual jobs that leave them earning far less than their county government counterparts. Okay. It does seem that there's a lot of pontification going about when it comes to SHA. And it's unfortunate, it's low-hanging fruit when you want to take a stab. That in too many areas, it's just not working. That we started to see the rumblings from the ground and it started to go up from people, whether they registered or not. Also, it's misery loves company. So you tell me, Dennis, it's not working. I can also tell you, actually, no, it's true, it's not working. Whether I've registered or not is really not your problem. But I've told you it's not working. Then we start to see the realities knock on our door in the morning. We see that this is actually the case, that it is not working for so many, very, very many people who have tried to access it. And then when you have members of your representative body being Parliament, whether it is at the Senate or whether it is at the National Assembly, then we have a problem. And the cry continues to be from people across board, partisan or not, to government, that, you know what, guys, at the very least, this system ought to work. It is one of the things you rode on to ensure that people would actually get treated and that once they delivered, they could. Why do you have 18 million people registered and only 4 million people are paying? What's going on? What's happening? Why are people not paying for the system? Is it because it's not clear how their money is actually going to work for them? When people go to hospital and actually the system says, okay, fine, you have a bill of 400,000, we can only pay 17,000. In a system where you told them that they would be able to go to hospital, present their credentials, they would be able to be sorted, taken care of, and they don't have to pay a penny to come out. What happened? Why are we still dealing with a situation whereby we were told everything was going to be okay, and here we are, and it's still not okay? The practitioners around the system are telling you, we can't do this anymore. We'll go on strike. The thing will be crippled. In a month, we could be staring down a situation whereby you're going to go to hospital. It can't happen. Private hospitals say you owe them money. They're not going to offer you services. Faith-based are about to join the fray. My goodness, it's a tailspin and I'm dizzy.
You see, when you talk about even let's talk about 18 million registered and the 4 million. What is if the 4 million that are paying because they are they're earning a salary which is deducted monthly on a monthly basis. When you talk about the deficit that is 14 million people who are registered, how is the government ensuring that they are deducted as registered members of SHA? That is not clear cut on how the government is getting the monies from them. And as we talk about this system that is here, it is here whether we like it or not. Kenyans are seeking medication using this system. And the government has no option but to make sure that SHA is working and is working for everybody. Like you say, whether I'm registered or not, if I hear it's not working for Ndu, I will carry that gospel forward. Of course.
Yes.
You know, because it is someone I know that it has not worked for them. But what is the government doing in fixing all these issues associated with SHA? Because you see, doctors are saying one of our own died because SHA did not come through for them. Many other Kenyans are singing the same language. Are the people who do not even use SHA, because we know members of parliament have 10 million shillings private insurance.
Do you think that the burden on government is too heavy, City? And let me before you take that breath properly, maybe it is a lot. Maybe there's not enough money. I mean, Director of Medical Services, Dr. Amoth, has said, you know what, we need to make sure that people are paying, because if they don't pay, we're not able to pay. We can't pay. If people don't pay at their tier 2, remember tier 2 is when you go in and that money that you pay is actually your money. If they don't have enough money, then it is not possible. We can sing songs and craft tales and do whatever we want, and we can pontificate from here until dusk. But truly, if there's no money to do the thing, it's not going to happen. If there's no money to pay health workers, it's not possible. By the time somebody's saying we're going to slash your salary from 70 to 40, is because there's no money. leave alone that there could be money for other things, okay? Yeah. But what we are saying is that in this case where they need money to pay medical doctors, they need money to pay clinical officers, they need money to pay nurses, they need money to pay interns. If there's no money, it's also...
What we do in such a situation is, first of all, let's start with what was the Ministry of Health allocation for the financial year?
3.6 billion.
No, it was more.
Okay, let's go with 3.6 billion.
Can the Ministry of Health give us an account of how that 3.6 billion was actually utilized to meet the needs they have? I ask this question because before you convince us that the money was insufficient, it's the same question we've asked of counties. You say this money is not enough. Okay. Tell us the shortfalls, but also tell us how it is you use the money that you are given.
So, based off information I'm seeing here, the health sector was allocated 134.437 billion in the 2023-2024 financial year.
Yes. Yes.
134 billion.
134.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Low.
Yes. So, just simple. Do the maths. Break it down. You know what you spend money on, isn't it? You know the budget line, don't you? You know the items for the ministry. Just show us. That 134 billion, this is how we used it. And this is where the shortfall is.
Yes.
Now, so long as you can't document and show us, don't talk to us about the shortfall. Don't say there isn't enough money. That is a tired, trite story. It is banal. It is something that, yes.
No, carry on, please.
Carry on, yeah. Drop them.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot speak of one without explaining and documenting and detailing the other. Okay? Now, this conversation about there not being enough money.
Not enough. None.
Take it somewhere else. Take it somewhere else. If you're going to talk about money that was allocated and budgeted for but didn't arrive, talk about that one. And also tell us how it is you utilize that one. If you then say you prioritize certain things, explain why you prioritize those things and didn't prioritize the human resource who are supposed to make these things possible. And I'm talking about cross-board. Are the people within the Ministry of Health that got paid? Yes. Are the interns under the Ministry of Health? They are, yes. The service they provide and supposed to provide, is it crucial? Yes. So, when you talk priorities and crucial, put those two together. How then should the money have been allocated? This is a tired story. Tired. We are chasing a tail that doesn't even exist. We're talking about a black cat in a black room. The black cat doesn't even exist. Where do you take the money that is allocated and what do you do with it? Forget these long stories. When you have that budget, we are talking about public or the public health component, the primary health component of SHA. We're talking about the critical and emergency care that is supposed to be the third, where the government is supposed to bring the funding. Explain to us, when this budget was given to you, since you're the Ministry of Health, how much of this money went into these two sections? I mean, these questions keep coming up and they must be responded to. When they're responded to and it equals, we cannot pay interns, we'll understand. If they're responded to and it answers, we cannot honor the CBA, we will understand. But so long as that math doesn't math, okay?
Well done.
Then take that discussion somewhere else, okay?
Yet here we are sitting. It is what the government is saying.
It is. The information the government is piecemeal. You tell me a statement that you could consider comprehensive that was issued regarding this matter. Tell me which one. A substantive office holder coming and saying, this is this, this is this, this is this.
No, unfortunately, we haven't. And what we've gotten in terms of a response to this is the threat that perhaps we can shut down, licenses for private hospitals. That's the answer. Kind of like what we see with the math problem that we talked about earlier in the morning, is that if there is a problem, we want to solve a problem by covering, there's a crack in the window or the little part of the window that's chipped. And rather than removing it and replacing it with the new glass, we take a cardboard and cover it.
Yes. So it's like the window doesn't exist.
Yeah, so if I don't have to see it, then the problem doesn't exist. So now, if I can revoke your license as a private hospital, then I don't have to deal with the fact that I owe you 30 billion shillings. And I don't have to deal with the fact that this thing is rotten at the core and perhaps we should dig out the the rot and deal with it. So I cover it up with the cardboard and I move. So if I don't have to deal with, okay, so fine, math has been a pain point for students in school, instead of sorting out our teaching methods, instead of insisting that the trickle-down effect is actually, it's streamlined and that it's working properly, and then I'll say, okay, fine, you don't have to do it. Mm-hmm. You see, that's how we're starting to deal with issues. And then we say, okay, you know what? At the county level, if health workers go on strike, what are we going to do? We're going to sack you. Okay? And we're going to bring other people in. There are many people who want jobs in this country. If you think that you're going to insist on us to pay you with money that we don't have, we're going to get rid of you. Okay? That's going to solve the problem. Then we're going to bring others into an already source system, and then we're going to think we can solve it that way.
In this same ministry, are you telling me that the travel budget has been cut? Are you telling me that people who work in that ministry don't travel? Are you telling me people in other ministries don't travel? We heard of austerity measures. Yeah. One hears it. What does austerity measures mean? It means the business that we had as usual can't be. Unless it's critical. Now, COVID taught us you didn't even need to travel. You can actually meet those people online and chat and conclude. And then take the two people who need to sign to that country to sign, or ask those guys to come over so that we can sign. The options are plenty. The story of austerity is precisely that. The areas where you see austerity, the areas that you don't. If I saw government services grinding to a halt in all sectors, and others, essential or non-essential, grinding to a halt, then I would say, this money problem is real. That is not the case. We still have the Director General pointing to us glaring and obscene amounts of money being spent
on travels.
Yes, and by the same government officials.
The same people.
Help us understand this austerity. Is what
exactly? What is our problem? No, honestly, no. No, sorry, Aseto. What is wrong with us? Because is there something wrong? Because I saw a comment by somebody earlier, and I think it was my take, who said, honestly, what happened to us after independence or even before? And it's not just Kenya, by the way. What's wrong with us? What's wrong with us?
African countries have this problem.
Yes.
Some are worse than the others. And then you know what we do? The bar is now set on comparing ourselves with the West.
Yes.
How can that be a bar?
Honestly speaking.
That's a pit. It's not a bar.
I think about the country, my country, Nigeria. I think about the country and I think about those that's around and say, what really is wrong with us? That what is available, you think that the best thing that you want to do with it is take it and put it in your pocket. That you think that the best thing that you can do when you look at a dilapidated economy and you look at people who are suffering to stand up in the morning and make it from point A to point B, to suffer to take their children to school, to get on public transport and get home, to suffer to have a meal a day. And you think that the best way to deal with it is to steal the money and to prioritize that money for something else. No, there's something wrong with us, honestly. And I think that's what we need to be dealing with.
Yeah.
And I go back to that. What value do we place on human life? What value do we place? Because if our value index was at optimum, you see all these things that we complain about, that people say we are making too much noise. This thing we talk about education, shouting like mad people. This thing we talk about health, shouting again like even madder people. You talk about a road that has not been made for 20 years. If our value system for doing the right thing, if our value system for putting people top in terms of priority, if our value system for the job that you've been given to do, you do it right. If our value system, the points were up here, in fact, we would not be having anything to talk about.
You see, when you talk about our value system, let me just paint a picture. I was with Dr. Samuel Mwenda over the weekend, and let me just paint a picture of what it is we're dealing with when it comes to matters SHA. If you go to Tenwick Hospital today, they conduct around 3 to 4 open heart surgeries weekly, because that is their specialty. So that means if you do not have money, that patient who does not have SHA is not working for their benefit, they will not be able to get these surgeries done. And if they down tools today or they ask you to bring the money, that means around 6 people will not be able to get these services. Now let's go to Kijabe. Kijabe is well known for all the surgeries they do. They have 15 well-equipped theaters that attend to Kenyans every single day. We're talking about individuals who are seeking critical care in this country who cannot be able to access these services because the government has decided not to pay these faith-based institutions for reasons well known to them. We're talking about people who have conditions that are life-threatening. What value are we placing on human life? And the Daktari said, it is simple. If the government does not pay, You as Ndu, if you come with your heart condition, you need a surgery, I will tell you, the government has not paid me. Please give me $1 million bob to be able to operate on you.
But even it goes beyond payment, because usually this thing works, it's credit that the hospitals give the government. So they've provided services and they haven't been paid, and they can't see why they should continue going to the hole.
Yeah.
But this one we've discussed. I want us to touch on press freedom for the next 5 minutes.
Okay.
Go.
Because it's important. Let me just read it.
Yes.
Press freedom refers to the rights of individuals and organizations to express, publish, and share information, ideas, and opinions without fear of censorship or government interference. I'm just going to repeat this so that you understand it.
Okay.
Press freedom refers to the right of individuals and organizations to express, publish, and share information, ideas, and opinions without fear of censorship or government interference. It is a fundamental component of democratic societies, allowing journalists and media outlets to investigate, report, and criticize freely, acting as watchdogs over government actions.
Okay, so after you've read that, number one question is there a practice of ultimate press freedom happening in Kenya today?
Ultimate? Nope.
No. And why would you say that?
A lot of our revenue is closely tied in with government. It's a policy that we have, and it's normally meant to be given to the either of the three big media outlets. But in our case, it's not just a question of the media doing business with the government. What is at the center of any discussion is what the government owes the media.
Yes.
And it's the same story where the government pays, and they have paid.
Yes.
We have been paid some money, but what is owed is a great deal more.
Yes.
So it's more or less being dangled. And it's like you're being told, if you do not do what it is that we consider to be appropriate, even this we will not pay. When you get to a point where a contract that has been signed, you're being told, this one, no more business to you. Okay. How do you interpret that? If it isn't as though you are being told, if you do not do what we think you should do, then you will not be doing business with us.
And essentially doing what you think we should do is making sure that the headlines that you're putting or the stories that you're carrying across your media platforms essentially are cushy stories, and that what they do is that they're comfortable, they're cushy, and that you make sure that, the powers that be are aligned and that they're comfortable. The question also is that what position does the media hold as the fourth estate?
Yes.
What position does press hold when it comes to telling the truth? There's fact and then there's truth.
Yes.
When you share somebody's opinion, when you put it in the headlines, refute the story. Can you refute the story? Refute the story. If there's nothing to refute, and it hurts your feelings, then all we'd have to say was, if it hurts your feelings, then perhaps that's something that you need to do and look inward.
Yeah.
Or inquire.
Or ask other people if they also feel.
Or even inquire the very people who had that particular opinion, ask them to explain further. Secondly, that freedom doesn't protect you from defamation or having content that is illegal and that is false. It doesn't.
Yeah.
It has to be responsible freedom. Yes.
Yeah. And you see, even when you talk about media freedom in this country, dissent does not mean disrespect. When you're being critical in reporting, it does not mean that we are infringing on your right. You're telling us this, we are asking the tough questions that perhaps you don't want.
We're telling you what you said, this is what it means.
This is what it means.
Well, this is how people have taken it.
Yeah.
This is what people actually see. When you stand atop vehicles and do your tours, when you have a health system that doesn't work, when you form a pact with individuals who you think that now this is the panacea to Kenya's problems, this is what Kenyans are actually telling you that they think about what you've done.
Yes.
So do you take the position and decide you're going to do something about it if you care? Or do you say, actually, you know what? You who is bringing out this information that you would actually use as prescriptive by Kenyans, what we're going to do is we're going to say that maybe we're going to make it a little bit more difficult for you to operate.
We are a news and information and data gathering outfit. It's what we do.
It's what we do.
And we represent what we have heard. And we say, this is it.
This is what people have said.
Yes, this is it.
You report on the news. You don't conjure up your own opinion. That's why you have op-eds in the paper.
Yes.
You have op-eds in a newspaper, for example, for that purpose, where somebody can come and share their opinion. But when you're raising information about facts, about things that happened, about occurrences, that is what it means. News, information from north, east, west, and south. That's what news is.
Why don't we take a look at several headlines, even as we conclude?
Yes.
Business Daily. Workers pay more to NSSF as regulator delays relief. Meaning there was relief, it has been delayed. Nation. Mexican cartel run drug lab in Kenya. They're reporting. They've gathered the data. They're reporting. We're looking at the Star. Only 4 million people paying for SHA. Non-salary members pay only when sick. That is the headline. Let's look at the Standard. Enemy of the press. Anyone who is considered to be at the forefront of curtailing freedoms that are enshrined in the Constitution, you will be an enemy of the Constitution, actually. And in this case, since it is directed at the press, you'll be an enemy of the press.
And as well, remember that the press, we speak to the people. We represent people's views. At that point, if you attack the media, then again, what are you telling to the people? Because then again, what we are doing, we are the mediators, ensuring that the public is informed, which is the right in the Constitution of the Republic.
And if we misrepresent the public in this country, they are quick to tell you that you misrepresent.
Even before the thing dries.
They will point it out to you, and they will tell you in clear and uncertain terms.
Even before the ink dries on the, even before it dries on the newsprint, you already get that information and you get it clear. So, what do you do in a case whereby certain rights are being curtailed? Do you just continue telling the truth? I'd say you continue putting it out there. And let's see what happens as a result of that.
Kenya
certain pressure
has rights and has enshrined and has permitted rights that very many African countries can't even think or dream of. We're saying, let's keep doing better.
I think finally, 100 years old, Standard is doing well, being bold. The only thing you can do is continue being bold.
Thank you for being part of Kenya's biggest conversation this Wednesday. And we continue having these conversations. Important to keep this discourse front and center. Good morning. It's 10 a.m.